We are recording.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Creative Businessmen. Today we have comedian Tom Simmons on with us. Good to have you here, Tom.
Hey, how you doing?
Do you want to just tell everyone a little about yourself, and we'll start there?
I'm a comedian for the last, 20-something years. So that's what I've done since I was cutting grass and going to school and, so been doing that for whatever. So that's what I've been doing. And then I work in comedy clubs all over, work wherever, theaters. And I was working cruise ships before COVID hit, and now I'm starting over and doing open mics. And
Doing a lot of writing.
Yeah, just doing a lot of writing. So that's what I do. I'm a dad. I had a video web series for a little while that I did, and that kind of saved me too in comedy. Like gave me like 2 years of staying at home and coaching baseball with my son and writing like topical jokes and stuff.
Oh, cool.
So
what got you into comedy?
Oh, I did it. I had some friends talk me into doing an open mic, and I did well. And then you catch that buzz of like, oh, I want to do that. It didn't, and then next thing you know, you're like, I'm going to a bar to try to win the bar tab that night. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Go up there and be funny. And so I would do that here and there, and then you just start finding places to do it more and more. And then next thing you know, you got a guy that's like, hey, I got this room over here. And then I went and did that room. And then he paid me to drive and do a gig in Alabama. And then you pick up a week hosting in Savannah. And like next thing you know, you're a comedian. If that makes sense. Like
That's cool.
It wasn't something I was like, I'm going to go do that. I just figured, I kept kind of getting little, and you're a kid, and I was a kid, early 20s, partying, and then I quickly, once I realized, I want to do this, I had to quit drinking because it was affecting how I did comedy and everything. And
right.
then I just started doing what driving to wherever you could, to drive to Chattanooga from Atlanta. I started basically in Atlanta, and drive to the next thing, and try to drive up to Nashville and try to get a week there, and then you just like I said, next thing you know, you're a comedian. And then I stumbled into getting an agent that liked that I just wanted to be a comedian, and then he started getting me work as a feature act in all the funny bones and improvs and just driving around the country. And then I met the girl that became my wife, and we bought a motorhome and lived in it for 3 years, driving around gig to gig. And then it's 20-something years later, and I live here in Greensboro, and I'm a comedian.
That's awesome. Where did you start at?
One of the first times I did it was just down in Tallahassee. There was a Coconuts Comedy Club place that I did a couple like open mics, and then I didn't do it again for 6 months, 8 months. And then I moved to Atlanta, back to Atlanta, and I basically started there. And I started at Uptown Comedy Corner. It was basically like my first home club.
Okay.
Which was Comedian Earthquakes Club. It's back in the day of Def Jam and all that, so it was an all-black room, and I would do there, and then a little coffee house, and try to do some Punchline, which was more of a mainstream type room.
Yeah.
And so that's
like a franchise.
Yeah. So I started, by mainstream I mean mostly white, and then everybody,
Oh, just a more typical comedy club.
There's just if you went to Uptown, you were the white guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like that, like you go to the Punchline, mainstream, that's what I mean. It was like the room that...
More like the Comedy Zone type
Yes.
room. Yeah.
Yes.
So, what was your childhood like? Like what sort of influence did you go into comedy? Or
That laugh says a lot.
My childhood, I moved a lot. I was born on Long Island, and then Illinois, and then a divorce, so Illinois, and then I'm living in like Rockford, Illinois, which is outside, like northwest of Chicago, and then another place in Illinois, and then Atlanta, and then Wisconsin, and then back to Atlanta, and then Colorado. My sister was she was a really good figure skater.
Oh, wow.
Like one of the best. So as she sort of went up the line, she'd moved to that training facility where she would get coaches, or she had a sponsor that would help pay for stuff, and then we'd sort of move in stages to wherever she was, and then she'd do the next thing. It was like, go do that. And then, so we moved around a lot as she sort of climbed the ladder.
So you had a lot of interesting experiences growing up.
Yeah, and then we boarded skaters. Like, that was part of how my mom paid our bills. Like, when we lived in Wisconsin, we had like 10 different skaters. Like, they had a good rink and coaching system in place there, I guess. So they would do like what we would do. Like, when my sister would move to Atlanta, she'd live with a family. So there would be like, that's what was happening with us. Like, there was 6 to 10 other girls and boys skaters that came and lived at our house and paid $80 a week, and their parents would sort of send them off there.
I'm sure it was a really weird experience for you.
Yeah. My childhood was. It is what it is. Like, my wife, people always say, you should talk about your crazy family when they were you, but to me, they're just, I don't really have a lot of stuff on that.
It's like you lived in an ice skating business.
Yeah, if you want to talk late 70s, early 80s, male and female figure skating, I'm your guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The teenager inside of me, though, wonders if you weren't having a smash party. Like I'm just saying, like, because I'm like thinking this could be awesome. Like,
a bunch of girls that are fit and figure skating.
Yeah, and they're they're in a new place. They don't know a lot of people. Like, hey, it sounds awesome to me.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I guess.
The teenage guy, version of me. The adult in me goes, that's too much estrogen and testosterone in my home.
Yeah, I sort of figured out how to keep to myself, and then, you know what I mean? I shared a room sometimes with two or three other male figure skaters, So, yeah, look at the look on your face.
Yeah, that'd be horrible.
Yeah. I did a lot of like headphones listening to Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor.
I've never had a roommate.
Yeah.
My whole life. Yeah. I refuse to.
But no, there was. I don't, like I said, I don't remember.
I was gonna say, I've got one, but I'm not real happy.
I don't remember a lot of smashing. I was sort of to myself too, I didn't start to,
smash it. I catch some shit for that word smashing, but I don't know the appropriate vernacular to use to be correct. When I was a teenager, that's what
Yeah, you got a bunch of teenagers together. You think everybody'd be hooking up and doing their thing.
That's what I was doing.
Yes. That's what my son's doing.
Yeah, exactly. Good for him. I like it, man. I've got 3 boys. I want a daughter, and I'm thankful and blessed that I have 3 amazing boys, and I don't take care of the children on a regular basis, so I can say I want a daughter, and there's no consequence to me because it's not going to directly impact the level of work that I have to contribute to my family.
Right.
So... and that's me re-articulating what my wife says in a much more cleaner version. But I would love to have a daughter, but I take some peace in the fact that I've got 3 sons, and I can make comments that work when you have 3 sons.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I can't wait. My oldest son, and he doesn't watch these, so I can say this for now.
How old is he?
He's 9.
Okay.
So my oldest son, he'll be 10 in November, and... probably by the time he's 13, I said this in the last podcast, he's pretty much a young adult to me. 13, I'm not Jewish, but I like the whole 13, you're an adult thing. And I feel like about that age, that's probably how I'm going to be treating him like a young man, let him make his own decisions. So in my mind, he's got the best room in the house, top floor, he's got a balcony that overlooks the water. I'm like, man, I can't wait for him to be up there smashing some.
Wow.
And I say that to myself. I don't say that to him yet.
Or your wife.
Yeah. I have said it to her. She doesn't like it, and I don't like the consequence afterwards, but I've said it in a joking way, and she's like, it's not going to happen. I'm like, well.
Yeah, so like my son is 15, right?
Yeah.
So there is that transition from where you walk into the room and they're like, they want to, like you're their, they admire you, they love you, they listen to you, blah, 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 to where they're just not kids anymore.
Yeah.
And he's that now,
Yeah.
But I
like that though.
So you don't have I sort of go both ways. Like if he has a girl that, especially now, like they can't really, what are they going to, they're going to go find a place to hook up in a car or something. Should I be the dad that allows them to hook up in our house or?
Well, my opinion is you can choose to be the dad that doesn't. They're going to do it anyway.
Right.
And here's my thing, and I do this with my partners, my friends, my family. I don't care what you do. Be honest with me, and we can get through it.
Right.
Doesn't matter what the mistake is. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't want them to be fearful because I'll tell you,
Yeah.
not everybody's like me, but I'll tell you, and I've got 3 younger brothers, you could have been my father. You could have told me whatever you wanted to tell me, and I promise you, no matter what consequence you thought you were going to give me, I still did what I wanted. 100%.
Right.
And eventually my father said, and I respect him for this, you want to be a grown man, you can't be a grown man in my house. And I said, okay, I'll leave. And I left.
How old were you?
17. Right? And I had been dealing with issues for years. That was the first time I got that option. So that's an awesome idea. So
Were you already making enough money to do that?
barely. I
Right.
was, but I mean, not. I thought at the time I was killing it
Right.
when I moved out and started taking on all these other responsibilities. I realized really quickly that I wasn't. It was awesome for me. It's actually the best thing I could have done. It's the best thing I could have done for my relationship with my parents too.
Right.
Right, but I'm very independent. That's why he said he's never had a roommate. Like, I still struggle with having my wife as a roommate.
And the 3 kids.
And the 3 kids, right? But yeah, I'm very much that way. So for me, for my kids, they would tell me, and I said this previously, but let's say he comes home and he's 14 and he just decides he's going to smoke. I'm against smoking. But if I feel like he's a young adult and he can make his own decisions, then my best bet is to educate him as the reasons you shouldn't smoke, and tell him, I'm not stupid enough or naive enough to lay down the law and know that you're just gonna go find somewhere to do it where I can't see it. So instead, you can't smoke in the house. You need to take that shit outside. Don't leave butts on the ground, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm gonna give you all these reasons I disagree with the activity.
Right.
But I'm not the other way. Like, if he's gonna drink, he's gonna drink. If he's gonna have sex, he's gonna have sex. And I don't care.
If he's gonna stick his hand into that light socket, whatever, he's
Yeah.
gonna do it.
He's gonna do it. I'm gonna tell him he shouldn't do it. But at some point, like, what do I do?
They've done a lot of studies on this, and what they found is that really people are going to be who they're going to be.
Yeah.
Like, once your personality starts to evolve,
Don't teach
And
your child to
develop.
be a liar. You're going to teach your child to lie to you and everybody else, and lie to themselves about who they are.
but
Right.
sometimes people just want to lie too. Like,
That's true.
Some people, they just decide that's how
Yes.
Yeah, that's
they are,
true.
and they're just going to be a dishonest, lying person. And you can't really do anything about that.
Yeah.
So do you
a good swift punch in the face helps.
do you accept
In the
that?
moment, maybe.
Do you accept that about the person? You know what I mean? Like let's say you meet someone and in the first 5 minutes of meeting them, they're lying to you and you know they're lying to you, but they're lying for no reason. Like it was just a Burger King, and you're like, that's a McDonald's bag, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're for no reason they're lying to you. Do you sort of take that like, all right, this is just who Jimmy is, you know?
I just avoid that person.
Yeah.
Okay.
I stay away from that person
Same
because
here.
they're.
Has
you-
Jimmy been around you for 20 years? And Jimmy's got some nuances, and he's got some really great qualities.
That's what I mean. Do you have some people like that you just got to know?
That's
All right, I
possible.
can't really trust this guy, but dude, he's so fun.
I'm going to give and this is going to be a mixed review. Luckily, we don't have a massive audience yet. But Jeff Schwartz used to say some version of, you can do business with a crook as long as you know he's a crook,
Yeah, he told me
Right.
that. Yeah.
right? And is a mentor of mine and very successful. And I think at his peak, he owned 4,000 commercial real pieces of property. But anyway, and what that meant for me and what I literally apply it to is that as long as I know who I'm in bed with, as long as I know who I'm in business with, as long as I know who I'm employing, then I can do business with them, right? And I can have a relationship. So what I've tried to do is figure out, is that a deal breaker? And do they have other qualities that allow me to overlook that? Like, I've got a brother sometimes that is, we'll just say, exaggerates, right?
right.
But all these other things he does amazing at. And I just figured out a way, the moment I've realized what he's doing, and he exaggerates me being nice about what he's doing, I just immediately cut it off, right?
Right.
And I'm like, hey, listen, you can save that for somebody else. Let's focus on this. I redirect it, we get past it. So I don't know. I can overlook it, one, because he's family, and two, because there's all these other positive qualities. But
That's what I mean. Yeah.
when I meet new people, though, that are like that, they're never going to get the chance for me to see all these other qualities, because why would I bring them into my life?
And I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to do business with people you don't necessarily like,
Yeah.
or you have nothing in common with,
That's
or maybe
okay.
they have some bad traits.
Yeah.
But as long as you're aware of that, they're
Yeah.
not going to be able to rip you off. You know, you can still do a good business deal with that person.
Yeah.
Potentially, not always. You know,
Right.
sometimes you just can't do anything with that person. But as far as being in my friend group, though, it's not going to happen. Like
Yeah,
I just avoid associating with people like that.
I try to too. Now,
Yeah.
back to the thing with your son, letting him make his own decisions. Then what do you do with sort of the
I'm gonna talk-
science of most, especially males, from about 14 to 26, like make all the that's when the science is you're going to make is all the terrible decisions
Oh,
that really
100%.
ended up affecting your life.
No, 100%. That's exactly when the terrible decisions. I agree with you completely, and that's when I made a lot of my terrible decisions. The problem is that the parent thinking them trying to stop it stops the decisions is not.
Doesn't.
That's like, and this is not to get political, but this is why making something illegal doesn't work. Right? It's against the law to speed. Everybody speeds. This is against the law in Chicago. In most cases, in the city limits, to own a gun, but it's the murder capital of the United States.
Right.
Right? It doesn't matter that I create a rule that says he can't do it. He's still going to make bad decisions, of which one of those is going to be ignoring my rule.
Right.
Right? So, and I'm evidence of that. So the best I can do is educate him and to give him decisions and allow him to make those decisions and also deal with the consequences.
And also be an example. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest part of parenting is you're just teaching them how to be humans.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, I have a 4-year-old daughter. She'll be 4 in a week. And, you know, I can already see her personality developing. Like, she already knows things she likes and wants to do. She already wants to test us
Oh, yeah.
on what she can get away with. You know, does she really have to listen? Is there a consequence? And we don't spank her. You know, we just do timeouts and stuff like that or take things away.
They're very effective.
Very
things
effective,
away.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
I agree.
as long as you stick to it, you know, you have
Yeah.
to apply the
One of the most
discipline.
impactful things we did for my son was he had a thing one time when he was little. Him and his cousin were we were at Thanksgiving at my wife's uncle's, and in the pool room they have a pool table and a dartboard, and they started flinging the darts like up into the ceiling and stuff.
Of course, I'd do that. Yeah.
Right? So they were just and for just no reason, right?
Yep.
And then he had gotten a Nintendo 64 from another friend of ours who didn't use it anymore, like a big tub filled with the games and he was just playing the crap out of that. And when we found out he did that, he lost that. Like the guy came over, took it, he never saw it again. And like those kind of punishments are way,
I
I
love
think,
that.
more impactful
Yeah,
than
100%.
spanking your kids. Like,
Just teaching responsibility.
Yeah, you spanked me. I grew up getting spanked.
Yeah,
My
me too,
original
yeah.
reason not to spank my kids was more about controlling my temper, not being able to. Over time, it evolved into, what are you really teaching your child?
right.
Yeah.
Right? You're teaching them when you do something I don't like, I'm going to hit you. And your child mimics that behavior. That's what I did. I mimicked the behavior.
Right.
So you want to hit me, that's fine. Matter of fact, now, today, I would tell you if I mess up, I'd rather get hit than deal with the consequence you just mentioned. So give me the adult version of that consequence. I'd rather a punch in the face any day of the week.
Right.
Right?
That's true. That's a good point.
You know,
That's a good
and you know, so but that's the problem is you teach somebody who already has the potential to be violent. You teach them and you reinforce violence, right? So your child meets somebody like me when I was growing up, and they do something I don't like, I'm going to hit them instantly,
Right.
and I'm going to think I did the right thing, right? And then society and the police and the teachers and everybody else are going to get mad at me. But all I'm doing is just using the behavior
Mimicking.
that I was taught.
Yeah, I have a joke that I've done for years about sort of child abuse, where people are like, it basically is like something happened where Charles Barkley's like, well, my parents beat me, I turned out fine. What's the problem? Well, you didn't turn out fine. You think it's okay to beat a child with a stick? You're obviously something's the matter with you. You know? Like we have a strict rule in our country that everybody agrees with, right? You should never hit a woman, never hit a girl for any reason, right? Unless it's your daughter, then swing away with whatever belt or wooden spoon you got laying around. Like you need to hit them.
Well, in North Carolina,
people,
you got
know?
the rule of thumb in North Carolina, man.
Yeah, anything thicker than a thumb.
Yeah, thinner than a thumb. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
beat them with. But I don't know. For me, man, and I'm fine. I was a difficult, putting it lightly, teenager. So I think they did the best they did. The information that available to them was different. I'm good. I'm fine with what, but it allowed me to make different decisions.
Right.
So hopefully my children don't. They're going to have their own trials and tribulations. I just don't want them to have some of the ones that I struggled with. Right. So maybe the violence aspect of it will be they'll struggle less with that during that window. Right.
Right. I don't feel like like for being spanked or having my mom break a wooden spoon over my ass for, some of that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I could see, I was pushing a bus while it was going down the street. Like,
Yeah.
she saw me dying and she doesn't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I
I
agree.
don't really I don't feel traumatized by any of that
I'm
stuff.
good. There were a few times where where it just rings in my head, like, where I'm like, okay. But again, that comes down to what were they doing? Are they spanking out of concern and fear and like you could have hurt yourself?
Right.
Or are they spanking out of anger because they can't control you, right? And they're upset and frustrated, and the harder they hit you, it's less and less effective, so they have to hit you harder.
Right.
But
then how is it more traumatic to be screaming at your child? Like I had a thing with my son where I feel like I set him up, first of all. Like I was going to cut the grass, and he's sitting at his computer playing games with his friends and blah, blah, blah. And we have to be at baseball practice in an hour and a half. And we got to pick up his buddy or we can't go,
Yep.
So I go in. He's got one rule. We pay a lot of money for him to play baseball. He loves it. He's pretty good. It's like, you need to go out and hit off a tee, a bucket of balls a day. You know what I mean? You say you want to make it.
Yep.
You have to have a work ethic.
I
This
agree.
is the minimum.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I literally bring him back a peanut butter sandwich and a glass of milk. And I'm like, I'm going to go cut the grass. First of all, he should be cutting the grass. He's 14 years old. Right? But I'm like, you got an hour and a half. Be ready. Get dressed. Blah, blah, blah. That's what we got to do. I go cut the grass. I come back in. There's still 45 minutes to go. He hasn't moved. He's still sitting there. I mean, the milk is gone. Sandwich is gone. I'm like, dude, you got 45 minutes. Be ready. You know what I'm saying? I'm joking around with him and his friends. I'm like, dude, don't be ready. I don't want to lose my shit, right?
Yeah.
Because once I lose my shit, you know what happens?
Yeah.
You start losing your shit. You lose this computer. You lose the phone. You lose your shit. And they're laughing and I'm laughing, right? So I go blow the yard, right? Right? That means two different things if you're a homeowner or a prisoner. Anyway, so I go blow the yard. I got a backpack blower. I come back in. Still, he hasn't moved. He's still sitting in his pajamas, not ready, blah, blah, blah. So now I start getting mad. This is what I yelling. I go take a shower. I come back out. Now it's 3 minutes before we have to leave. He's standing in the kitchen. He's dressed. He doesn't have his fucking shoes on. He hasn't hit. And I'm like, top of my lungs. Fucking what the fuck? I've told you over and over. I'm just losing it, screaming my head off. And he's like, but I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear any more words out of you until you get the fuck outside. I'm tired of this. But that's 3 fucking words. Just screaming. And then I realized my mother-in-law is sitting around at the table. I didn't know she was there. And I'm screaming with all the hatred in my life at my son about this. And I realized he could have been telling me, but Grandma's having a heart attack in the kitchen. And I'd have been like, I don't give a fuck.
Fuck your grandma.
Yes.
I don't like her anyway.
And then, the next day, we're going to pick up this girl. He's going to have, a date. She's going to come over. They're going to hang out, watch television, whatever.
Yeah, Netflix and chill.
Yes. I'm not ready for that either. He's 14. And then, so that day, he's showered, he's dressed, his hair is done, and is sitting in the car 15 minutes before it's time to go.
Yeah.
I wanted to punch that kid.
Motivation, man.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but now you know the carrot.
Yes.
Right.
And now he's getting older, and then you got to have that. Obviously, we've talked about sex with him all along.
Yeah.
So it's like.
I think. What do you tell a kid that's full of hormones at that age? I mean, for me, I've thought a lot about it. I mean, all I can do is I believe in being honest, literally with everybody. I try to be as honest as I can, even if you disagree with what I'm saying. But I also try to listen to other people's opinion, even if I disagree with them. And hopefully he sees that. And I let them negotiate with me. All my sons, they negotiate, and I don't just play the dad card like, well, I understand, but this is why we're not going to do that, and here's the reasons why. I probably, other parents would just go because I said so, and I try not to do that.
That was I used to say that to myself as a kid, I'm never going to say that.
Yeah.
Because I said so.
It's a terrible
you.
reason.
Yeah.
Sorry about my language.
No, you're good. Do your thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
There's no censor here.
Yeah.
So.
I try
Say
to.
what you want to say.
I try to talk to him, and he disagrees with me sometimes. I'm like, hey, listen, dude, fine. You want to buy it? Use your money. Like I'm not. You can pay half of it. I'm like, no, because normally I'll pay half of things, right? If I'm in agreement, I'll let him pay half, right? What if I don't agree? I'll just be like, all right, spend your own money.
Right. How does he earn his money?
Different ways, but same way any other kid could. I mean, the mowing, the trash, the stuff. We don't have chores. You have opportunities to earn money, but the difference is, I don't pay him 25 cents and 50 cents. I pay him basically like minimum wage. So if he goes out and puts in, I would pay him. Let's say he goes and does X, Y, and Z. Okay, it's gonna be $7. If it took him an hour, like he's got an actual opportunity to earn money.
Right.
We got guys moving boulders and doing things. He wanted to help wash rocks. So he washed rock for 2 hours. I told the guy that he could help, and I paid him for 2 hours worth of work he puts in his wallet. So
That's
you got
great.
to, if you really want your children to help pay for things, you can't pay them in quarters and expect them to spend dollars. Like they're not going to understand the real exchange of value.
Right.
Right. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to teach him what he's really doing, because this green stuff in your wallet, nobody knows what it means, right? Really, this tangible item that you have in your hand is really an intangible thing, and it represents a value, and it's an exchange of time. And we all earn that time based at different levels based on where we are in our lives. And for him right now, he's earning, $8, let's say, in an hour, and that's his exchange, whereas it may take me 2 seconds to earn that same amount, or whatever the number is, right?
If they raise minimum wage to a livable wage, are you going to start paying them higher minimum?
It depends. I try to pay him, and I'll pay him fractions of that. So if it took 15 minutes, then he would get, a fourth of that, right? So I try to dial it in, and this way he can. The reality is, some people go, that's the wrong way to do it. And I'm like, well, explain to me what a better way, because some people's way is just to buy everything the kids want.
Oh, no.
I don't like that.
Like my son's had to buy his own Wii, his own computer, his own, and it.
Yeah.
I feel like he
How
has,
much weed do you let him get? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I know you said weed. I was like, I almost said it was weed.
It does sound like weed.
I was like, really? Okay. Well.
Oh, dude, you just reminded me of I have a bit that I started working on, that I've been working on, and then last night I did the whole thing, and I was like, oh, that's the thing, and then you just reminded me of more
Of it.
to the bit.
okay.
There you go. There you go.
Yes. But
How did he earn his money?
it's when he was like your kid's age, it was like through a couple different ways. One was if he read a book.
Oh yeah, I like that.
So you read a book, you can get it.
Yep.
And he had those like, those like math workbooks that you can get for per grades or
Yep.
whatever. Like if he did one of those, he could get stuff.
I like that.
But mostly it's from reading now. And then it was he was talking about getting a job at like a car wash or something. And like I said, he's a baseball player. He dedicates himself to playing a lot of
Yeah.
it. So it's like you already have to do this a
Yep.
lot. So how about this? If instead of you getting a job that's going to take you away from that, I'll pay you whatever the $7 or $10 an hour for the hours you put in that are extra on
Yeah.
on baseball to doing that work.
See, I like that a
That's
lot.
good, yeah.
I like that a lot.
Because I can't get it through to him how much work he's not doing. Like I'm fine. You want to say you want to be a Major League Baseball player? That's great. But
Yep.
I'm not going to keep pretending that's real if you're not going to do the work that
I agree.
you
It's a lot of
think
work.
you're already putting in work, but you're not. And if you're not gonna,
Yeah.
that's fine. But start picking another thing that is your dream, because
Yeah, 'cause that one's not gonna
you're not
happen.
reaching that one.
Yeah.
You know?
And see, some of the things, like they do Taekwondo, more for that is discipline and self-confidence and just understanding. I think being
Plus, when they're being jerks, you can like work with them on their punch blocking.
oh yeah. Listen,
That's not child abuse. I'm working
No.
with him on Taekwondo.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm seeing if he can stop this kick to his jaw.
I,
And just talk back to his mom.
I had an incident happen, and I'm not going to go into all the details out of respect for my mom, but my dad got home, and I remember him putting me in a headlock, and he like pretend to hit me in the head, and I turn around and like he's like, "Oh, I'll fuck you up," and I remember turning around and being like saying some, I don't remember exactly, but something I shouldn't have said. like you hit like a bitch or something like that. And the very next moment, now, again, I'm violent at this. This was a valid response by my father. Was all of a sudden I went from where I was to about 12, 15 feet from that point immediately. And it was just like because I'm sure I bucked at him, got him in his face, etc. And then instantly I went, okay, he was being nice, right? It made me wake up for a second, right? Like, wait a second, you're not. So I do, I said I don't agree with spanking. That doesn't mean that if my 17-year-old challenges me that he won't get hit in the face. And I'm not going to do that, but I need him to understand that that's a possibility. If he hits me, right. I teach them.
You're a man now, right?
Yeah, if you're a man, you want to be a man, you deal with man's consequences. And this is the other reason for Taekwondo. I haven't laid a finger on my kids. I don't spank them. There's no physical discipline that takes place
right.
in my household.
And your kids are really good, too.
My kids are awesome.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed. We'll see how long that rings true. But they'll kick the shit out of each other in Taekwondo and sparring, and they have a positive outlet for it. We have punching bags and there's a time for it. And they're figuring that out, and they're understanding. And then there's this confidence thing. Like, if people attack people out of fear sometimes. If I'm a trained fighter, I can let things go. Like, literally, I'll have people that they think they're being threatening. I don't take it as a threat.
Right.
And I can kind of joke it off, right? And we used to own bars. Paul Talley, who owns Arizona Pete's and Comedy Zone, I'm sure you know him.
Yeah.
I used to be partners with Paul. I dealt with drunk people all the time that wanted to threaten me, and I didn't feel threatened. I just took care of the situation, got them out in a positive way. Sometimes it didn't go like that. Sometimes you had to forcibly take people out, right?
Was that fun?
I enjoyed the shit out of it during that age.
Right.
During that window,
Right.
I enjoyed it too much. But I'm hoping my children have the same thing take place. It's like they understand when they should be defending themselves and when they shouldn't be attacking people, right? So it's always a defensive thing. So that's why I got them in that, just to, I don't want to teach them violence, but they need to be prepared. Like you were saying, nonviolent solutions earlier before we started recording. To me, Taekwondo is a nonviolent solution.
Yes, like we were talking about. You wanted to bring that back up about being able to have a home self-defense.
Yeah,
it's a non-lethal weapons.
Yeah,
I don't want to have to buy an AR-15 because I don't want to have to learn to shoot it. I don't want to shoot people. You know what I mean? I would rather stop them from shooting me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think we've reached a point with guns in our country where it's almost like I almost have to get one.
There's a lot of people that feel that way. I grew up with them.
Yeah,
Me too. Yeah.
I get that. But most people.
You're from the north, though, right?
I'm from a mutt from everywhere. I
think
call
it's
myself
less-
a Southerner. My wife is like, no, you're not. You know what I mean?
I think in the north, people are a lot less likely to own guns because of the
It depends
gun
on where
laws
it's
and
at,
stuff
though.
and where you're at. But here at least, I don't know anybody. Randolph County, I think, has the third largest population of guns, the third largest total of guns in any county in the United States.
Yeah.
And that's where I was brought up.
It's weird how I feel that's sort of by design for what's going to happen, as we break down and start killing each other, and it's, to me, I see it in the same way that the arms industry related whatever that word is, extrapolated out to like
Extrapolated.
out to just to being like the military industrial complex. It's like that has been our sort of our economic model of control. Like I don't know if you ever read Perkins' The Economic Hitman or whatever, where we basically go in and.
It's funny you just brought that up, though. I just saw he just did a YouTube thing with somebody. But anyway, go ahead. Keep.
It's the whole thing about like our idea is to arm the Kurds, arm the blah, 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 and then that civil war sort of starts itself, and then or we go in and then we leave our weapons there and blah, blah, blah. And now you have all these different conflicts set up.
Yep.
And it gives you the more power,
I
think I see that as our country is we've armed everybody and now we're stoking that fear and hatred. And then if shit goes sideways, and there's only 3 days worth of food, and in 3 days it's the police are looting Walmart, then we're in a place where you're fucked if you don't have a gun.
Yeah.
And we have a bunch of idiots that aren't trained that are running around with
Yeah.
weapons.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I would tell you to get a gun.
Of course.
Take self-defense classes. Learn how to shoot it. Responsible gun. I promote responsible gun ownership. But here's the other reason. If you're a female, you should own a gun. If you're elderly, you should own a gun. If you're disabled, you should own a gun because it's an equalizer. And if you don't believe you need one, I encourage you to take the next 15 sometimes to a 26-year-old male and go lift with them, go compete with them, go run next to them. Try to outrun an 18-year-old that's in shape. Try to outbox one, outfight one. Try to lift with one. Try to compare strength as I don't know how old you are, but let's say you're a 35, 40-year-old male.
Okay.
And you've lived life and you've got experience, right? And you're going to be relatively strong, but you'd be surprised how weak you are compared to an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old. And this is the point. It's like you're at a disadvantage. Women, whether they agree or not, are at a physical disadvantage. Elderly are at a disadvantage. A gun is an equalizer. It's not. I'm not saying you should go out and start shooting people, but
in the sort of spirit of nonviolence and the sort of how to achieve nonviolence, like
use rubber rounds,
or use how to achieve peace is through peace. Like, and so any contribution to not peace contributes to there not being peace, or any contribution to violence adds to violence, right? In sort of in theory.
Well, that's where we get into Stephen Pinker's work too, showing that violence is decreasing. Society is way less violent today, despite what we see in the media. It's way less violent today than it was even 50 years ago, even 20 years ago. Violence has decreased.
There's less murders, less.
And it's because of, I think it's primarily because of education and information. And people are learning to cooperate with each other more. And also there's more resources. So there's less people fighting for resources to survive. But the gun issue, some of that is because it's sort of how our country was founded. It's an independence thing. Our forefathers
Well, I agree.
fought off another
like I
government.
should be able to have a gun to defend myself from a bear that's attacking me. And now it's not just bears; it's crazy human beings, right?
Well,
So
it's
like
always been about people,
Right.
primarily, to prevent tyranny or protect our country from other people.
But the only hope of for overthrowing our government is not through violence anymore. It's through nonviolence. Because even what's happening now with that's why they put people like instigators into nonviolent protesting, because that's why I'm sort of with like somebody like Antifa. You're allowing authority, you're giving them the okay to use violence back on nonviolence, because you're as soon as you start bringing violence to the thing, now the authority has the right to be like, okay, look at this, we got to fucking stop, and then they can overwhelmingly crush that with more violence.
There's a couple issues there.
And they can do it with the moral high ground.
Yeah.
Where if you're nonviolent, then you're showing that, like the old man, the 80-year-old dude that they pushed down in Buffalo. Like you can obviously be like, but if he was like waving a gun, then fucking do whatever you want to him.
Yeah.
But that's why nonviolence works, because it makes you be overly violent to it, and you lose the sort of moral.
A couple of things,
like those cops that ended up quitting because they got in trouble. Like, can you imagine like their kid looking, Daddy, why'd you quit the riot police? Well, I didn't think it was right that we weren't allowed to push over an 85-year-old nonviolent guy, step over his bleeding unconscious skull. Like,
well, yeah, like
when I grew up, I wanted to be just
quit.
not like you.
It was a problem. Yeah. Well, see, there's a couple issues though, and back to what I was saying about the armed society. Having an armed society dealing with tyrannical government doesn't work. I mean, if you even look at conflicts that are international, like in the Middle East and stuff, a lot of the groups that are doing the most chaos have fairly primitive weaponry, but they're still a problem. So in this country, we're a democratic republic, so we're all supposed to be the government. We're all supposed to be on an equal level. And the idea is that if we're all armed, then we can't be overthrown by a government. Our government can't be switched to some kind of a dictatorship. Violence is not the way to solve these issues, regardless of that. I hate all weapons. I wish they didn't exist. But as long as there are people that want to hurt people, I feel like I need a weapon, because I don't want to fight someone out of my house. I don't want to, if someone breaks into my house, I don't want to have to physically have a conflict with them with my wife and my daughter in the house.
Right.
I want to stop that threat immediately, as quickly as possible.
But statistically, aren't the statistics that a gun in the home is making your wife and daughter statistically really less safe because
not responsible gun ownership is not. No.
Right, everybody thinks they're responsible.
Well,
but obviously the stats show that they're not.
But my handgun is in a safe that requires a fingerprint.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say that.
But would you say that
you're
most
more likely
people are?
to?
Most people are like that, or they have them stacked up in a laundry basket in their fucking closet?
I don't know. It's hard to say, but I would say responsible gun ownership is not. It makes you safer.
And I have to look at the number. 9 times more likely your child to be kidnapped today in America than it is to die from a gun in your home.
Okay.
So would you say should people not be allowed to have children? Because they're not being responsible parents.
Well, I look at a gun as a tool. So
it's
even if you have a chainsaw, it's a very dangerous tool. You need to know how to use it properly.
Yeah.
Or you may cut your face off. You know what I mean? Like.
Right.
It's a lot of people get hurt with chainsaws.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to use it properly and it kicks back, it could hurt you. It could kill you.
Yeah.
And it's a vehicle is a very dangerous tool, an extraordinarily dangerous tool. I mean, 30,000 people die in the U.S. every year from auto accidents.
Right.
So you need to know how to operate a vehicle before you jump in a car and start driving it, or you could kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
Or yourself. And it's like that with anything. And the problem with guns and weapons is they're designed to kill people, and that's tragic and horrible. And I think one day we will reach a level where we don't do that. It'll probably be through technology. I mean, obviously we're creating technology that will modify us.
That's what I mean, like
we're
non-lethal
evolving.
weaponry. If my son could sit in his room and like out of my roof popped 5 drones that took care of the neighborhood from like ring cameras that were set up around, and I got like one of those like a invisible fence that burns people and keeps them off my property.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm down for those things.
Josie
honestly.
Wales walls that pop up.
Well, that's what I was wanting to get to is the non-lethal weaponry. And I feel like that's a big problem with our policing today and our criminal justice system is it's very violent and it's designed to hurt people. We have the technology for our cops to not have to kill 1,000 people a year.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we have it for people to do it too. Like the option, we don't have the option.
The problem with people doing it though
because
is
of the arms industry and the places like the NRA. It's like we all need to. There isn't options. There isn't non-lethal weapon options that we have. It's like you need to get a gun. Why are we not developing other ways to defend ourselves and our families?
The problem with that is having I guess a tool that would be as effective as a real weapon. And we all play by the rules. We care about people. We love other people. We don't want to kill people. But the person that's coming to your house to steal from you or
rape you
or whatever, they don't care. They're not playing by the rules. If they have a AR-15 or some kind of a semi-automatic handgun, you need something that's just as effective. And if it's non-lethal, great. But they need to be developing those weapons that are non-lethal, and I think that's a big problem. We don't have those.
Yeah.
Because. And maybe we do have them, and they're just not using them. But that should I agree with you. Police officers should be carrying non-lethal
Why
types
should
of
you be
enforcement.
allowed to have an AR-15 in your house and 7 of them to defend yourself from the robber? But you're saying the cops should be a non-lethal version.
Well, I'm saying if everybody
is. He's saying you can't do it because the criminals aren't going to play by the rules.
Right. Yeah.
So you have to have equivalent power to what the criminal has, right?
An equally effective.
And
tool.
that's the argument.
So we started a Cold War in our neighborhoods. Like we all have
right.
to.
It's perpetual.
At what point
it
do
is.
we say this is too much?
The non-lethal argument the police use. They say you want us to use non-lethal against criminals.
With machine guns.
More criminals kill police than police kill criminals. And I'm not defending anybody. I'm just saying. more police die in duty than the police killing people that they shouldn't be. But
I think more bartenders die than police.
that's
That's probably true.
That's very possible. Definitely
I haven't
more.
seen the statistics,
Definitely
but
more.
it's probably right.
Definitely more drinkers are dying than
Right.
some more alcoholics are dying.
I actually
but,
don't think it's that it's like I think I did some reading on that where it's not as dangerous a profession as as you would think it is. Like, you know.
I'm gonna make a joke.
It's
more dangerous than COVID.
Yes, like a
Statistically, if you're-
statistically, a cop's wife should have more worry that her husband makes it home at the end of the day than doesn't, because they're 40% of them get beaten.
I don't know, man. I feel like for me, I would welcome a non-lethal option, right?
Yes.
And
absolutely.
also, again, so you talk about, well, what is gun ownership? Well, this becomes the thing. So if other people are idiots, does that mean you have the right to take my rights away? I don't know that other people are being responsible with their guns. I don't know that other people are teaching their children to be responsible and respect guns.
I think we know that most people aren't.
Yeah, but that's not my problem.
I don't know that most people aren't.
It is your problem,
sure.
because now you have to not just have a rifle or a
You have to
pistol.
worry about those people,
You have
too.
to get the next level of gun, because that idiot.
Yeah,
is-
but I was brought up. Me owning guns, my father was military, my grandfather was military, his father for him was military. Me owning guns is in my family.
How did you not go to the military?
Businessman.
I was too entrepreneurial, but
Yeah.
I think I was too also
Too independent.
independent for that. But
Same here. Yeah.
But I'll tell you though, like guns have been in my family, I've never, unless there's some family member I'm unaware of,
Right.
no gun that anyone in my family has ever shot anybody by itself.
Same
They
here.
didn't.
Itself.
They didn't accidentally
Guns
go
don't
off.
kill people.
No, I'm saying like the gun didn't do anything. Now there might be an
Do you have any
incident.
suicides?
None. But again, if you can commit suicide, you can do it with a gun. I can do it. I can do
Yeah,
it
you
50
can kill
ways.
yourself with
I can go to
anything.
Lowe's.
You can kill yourself with anything,
Yeah.
but statistically, people kill themselves more.
I
with-
think if you reach the
more
level
often
where
than
you're
they
going
have.
to kill yourself, you're going to kill yourself.
But if you're gonna kill,
you know what I mean?
like it's an efficient way.
if you're gonna kill yourself, though, if that's what you're gonna do you want the person to suffer, or do you want a quick way? So would you rather them use a gun,
Funny
or
you
would
say
you?
that, because I've thought about that with the collapse of the
Yeah.
whole world. Like,
Yeah.
how would I do it? Would I
So-
get into a garage and
Stop thinking about that.
This is such a weird thing. Yeah. Well, let me ask you.
I'm just saying.
I like having you on though, because we probably have some vastly different opinions about some things, but it's really interesting. But let me ask you this: I'm just curious. Do you, and maybe you can't answer this, but do you think people should be able to kill themselves? I mean, currently it's
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you want to regulate how they can kill themselves?
I think people should do it a little more. Like, there was a guy, a football player in Ohio, that shot himself with a shotgun in a dumpster
Yeah.
out behind the coroner's office.
So we
And I
legalize
was like,
it.
dude, that's tragic and thoughtful. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not. You've really helped with the cleanup.
Yeah.
You're right there at the coroner's office. You're
Yeah.
in a dumpster already. You know what I mean? Like, people that, yes.
So maybe the solution though is
I think we should try to get people help first.
get people help, but regulate it. Figure out some way to have a medically approved process. And the problem is, I don't think you should commit suicide, but I also don't think that it's any of my business what you as a human decide to do with your own life. I would like to present all these options. Again, it's like with my children. It's not my job to tell them once they get to a certain point, they got to make their own decisions. I want to give all this information. I want to try and give them all the resources they can have to help. But at the end of the day, if that's a decision they're going to make, are they going to pull the trigger in privacy in their home, or are we going to give them a medically safe way to do it? This is highly controversial, by the
So
way.
creepy. Yes, I know.
And
But I've had
it's really
conversations.
dark.
I have a friend who's periodically very suicidal, and
Yeah.
to talk to him in his depression, and he's like, he starts explaining, like, and it's like, it's going to get better, and he's like, yeah, it is, and then it's going to get shitty again, and this is a continual thing that's never.
Yeah.
And after about 30 minutes of talking to him, I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't,
there's a
I don't
lot
know
of
what to tell you. I can't.
there's a lot of
you're
things
right.
that are out there that
The
that
worst ever at
have
that.
been working. Like, and I don't know, like a psychedelics and different things.
Yeah, that's true. It's a lot of psychedelic.
Maybe they need to
psychotherapy.
try some different things, but a lot of stuff's illegal. So I don't know where I thought they're like, oh, you're Republican, you're Democrat. I have no clue. I don't like the two-party system. I believe that me as a human, I have a lot of choices, and as long as my choices don't affect you, like the problem for me, I've never thought about killing myself. I've got 3 kids and a wife, and I've got family, and I got all these reasons, and for me, it's just not been a thing. Thank goodness.
But you
it's
deal
not
with-
been a
you
thing.
deal
I thought
with
when you
stress
said I'd
really
have
well,
all
too.
these reasons, but when you were saying I got a wife and 3 kids, I got all these.
Yeah, I got all these
but
reasons
I
to
still
do it.
haven't even thought of it.
But I haven't even thought about it, man. If anybody
not
should
in
do
me.
it, it's just not in me. But
I had a thing with my son has a virtual reality game, right? He has
Yeah.
VR goggles, and he loves to he was like him and his friends were playing this game Plank, right? So he was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, you gotta try this, Daddy," right? So put the goggles on, and then you go up in an elevator on a thing, and then you walk out on a plank over a city, and your mind is really powerful. How, at least mine is, as far as not letting you jump.
yeah,
Like it's hard. Like I had to take the goggles off and look at my bills and think about my future, and then put them back on and jump. It got easier then. But
Yep.
it's hard. Like
Yeah.
I wonder if somebody who's suicidal
They're wired differently for sure.
are wired differently and would have no problem just jumping off, or
Yeah.
if some people they know, okay, this isn't reality a little more and jump
Yeah.
off, but something about my brain locked me in to be like, oh, I can't. Oh, I want.
Yeah.
I
I'd
had
say
to
it's the
close
thing.
my eyes.
Well,
to
it's a
jump.
weird thing because it should be evolutionary. The evolutionary aspect of it, the biological aspect, should mean that you should not kill yourself because it's, survival is all about fitness and carrying on your genetics. So killing yourself is the complete opposite of evolution.
In theory, because there would be a way, all right,
Or it
unless-
could be population control.
unless it's not, unless evolution isn't tied to the individual, right? Like Howard Bloom
Yeah.
has sort of made in some of his books that I've read. It's like we're more wired for community
Yeah.
than we are individuals. Like there's this big
We're all
push to-
connected.
there's
Yeah,
this,
for
there's
sure.
this push to be like it's all about individuals and that survival of the fittest and the self, and that's what pushes it forward. And some of the evidence from all the different animals and from us shows that it's not really. It's more the individual will, in almost every species, including human, will sacrifice themselves for the group.
Yeah, it's collaborative.
yeah. I'll do that for my children or my
Right.
wife, my family. I'll definitely. I don't disagree with a lot of what you're saying. I just think it's a difficult problem to challenge. It's a difficult challenge to solve, and I'd love to live in a world where I didn't have to have a gun on me 24/7.
Maybe we should have boxes in all our houses.
Yeah.
Like a little box with a glass window and a little hammer beside it with a pill in there. So if you're ready to take that jump, that leap, you just smash it and take your pill.
Yes.
You could do like the suicide booths in Futurama or something like that.
Oh,
Their
yeah.
society progressed at least to there. Where it's like I can't take anymore, and you just run it.
Yeah, maybe they go in the booth and take it and it just flushes them. Into
But
the,
sometimes it's like all I needed to do was like eat a hamburger, and then I'm like, oh, never mind, I feel okay
Yeah.
now. You know what I mean? Like I forgot I hadn't eaten yet today.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's just, I'm hungry. You need a
they're
Snickers.
only that
man.
easy for some people, right?
You're hangry. You need a Snickers. I think
This is depressing.
it is. Well, I think you need to provide opportunity and resources and these things. But at the end of the day, some people are just going to do what they're going to do. And I think you can look at other countries where people are murdering people and they're not using guns. So if I don't have a gun and I'm going to go out and kill people, I mean, a hammer, a knife, we're going to ban those too.
No, just they're a little harder than pulling a trigger and 47 bullets come out.
Maybe.
Not necessarily. The vehicles are pretty good mass murderers.
Yeah, I mean,
I
we can start running crowds down.
I think the key is just making humanity better, making people better.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen.
And that's what it's happening. We're doing it, but
Yeah.
it needs to be faster.
I'd
But
love some non-lethal
Why does it
stuff.
feel like
I have
it's not?
mace.
Well, we've talked about too. I think one big problem in society also is the vast majority of your crime is in poor neighborhoods and poor communities where they're economically depressed, and that's
Okay.
90% of your crime.
Now, is 90% of the crime there, or is 90% of the enforcement there? And the same crimes
That's
are
the
going
majority
on?
of the violence and the crime is in impoverished communities.
Okay.
Because they don't have anything to work for. There's no structure. There's no discipline. There's no opportunity. You're just fucked if you live in those neighborhoods. And so you're more prone to crime and to police issues also. So you're in the system.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we fix those areas, that fixes a lot of the problem. And it's about having a higher floor in society. Having people that aren't struggling to live, I think makes better people. Having a better society requires having better people.
No.
And we have to figure out how to make that work.
So I've often wondered too, and a friend of mine, I don't want to say his name, but
Jimmy.
Yeah, we'll call him Jimmy. But he's very politically active. He's on the school board here in Greensboro. We grew up together. We have vastly different views about certain things. We've been good friends for a long time, right? Our views are very different.
I think it's easier to be friends with people like this than it is on Facebook.
I agree.
Like, you and I would probably have a very angry argument about guns back and forth on Facebook.
That's the problem with Facebook.
But in real life, I'm like...
I tried not to get caught into it
Right.
on Facebook, and I'd much rather I'm belly to belly, face to face, because I can still respect your opinion even if I disagree with you.
Right.
Right, because at the end of the day, my gun for me, and this is not for everybody, but my gun for me is all about protection of life. For me, I'm not going to pull it unless my life isn't, and I don't mean like a little bit threatened. I mean like I'm in dire threat. I've got my gun on me. I'm a big guy. I'm going to beat your ass
Right.
before I shoot you. I'm not saying you. I'm saying if there's a threat that can be handled a different way, I'm more than equipped to handle it a different way and will allow it to escalate. But there are also, and I don't know if you've ever been a victim, but there are also...
An armed robbery?
Of robberies,
Yes.
of just violent attacks like I have, and for no reason. And I've also been obviously in bars and stuff where people just out junk and just doing dumb shit. I've also been doing an ATM run where I had basically somebody that was high off their mind that tried to rob me with a knife. You're right. Like,
How'd that work out for him?
it didn't work out very well.
How'd that go? I'd like to hear, can you talk about that?
It didn't work out well for him
Right. but
physically.
So
I
were
didn't
you-
shoot. I didn't shoot him.
Right. Were you walking like up to deposit it, or did he come up to your
No,
car?
he came up to me while I was switching out the cash canister, while I was crouched down switching out the cash canister with a knife. He's lucky he didn't get shot.
So he walks up alongside you, has a knife, and he's like, "Well, how does he? Well, give me that money."
Yeah, no, he's like, you're going to give me all that fucking money, and then he's got the knife. And I mean, it wasn't yay big, right? I could see the tip of it on his hand. And I stood up. I immediately did this, right? Back up. He literally takes his eyes off me. He's high off his ass. Takes his eyes off me, closes the knife, puts it in his pocket, goes to grab the money. I start beating his ass.
Okay. All
So
right. Cool.
That's it in a nutshell.
Did he go for the knife?
No, by the time at that point, he wasn't
He
getting
had
back to his
succumbed.
knife.
Now, does time slow down right there, like it does,
Yeah.
like in a car accident, where you're like, and you see the opening of where to kick and where to punch?
It's
and
adrenaline. Yeah, it's full. But now, had I been the other version, I had my gun on. If you see me and I'm alive and I'm breathing in my own home, I got a gun on me unless I'm in the shower. Unless I'm sleeping, it's next to me. It's been that way forever.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
24/7, right? And it's never shot anybody.
Right.
But I had the opportunity. I could have legally shot him. I didn't.
So you're a rarity, not the rarity, but you're the minority.
That's pretty typical for people that have concealed carry.
I don't want to
Permits.
speak in a general manner about other gun owners. I'm just saying what are my...
But you
my,
should, because that's what's going to end up affecting your right to do that.
Yeah.
Is other gun owners that aren't responsible, right? It's like,
No, I'm saying I
so
agree
if that's
with
the
that.
majority, then there's a way to make responsible gun laws so that it makes sure that more people are responsible like
See,
you are, as opposed to I got a gun from my neighbor's garage
Yeah,
and
I
now
like
it sits
that.
in my closet.
Yeah,
I
but
like-
most gun violence happens in low income communities.
Yeah. Well,
The
so
vast majority of it.
let me go backwards real quick. So we were talking about, like my friend, who him and I vastly disagree on several things, but we're friends and we can chalk it up and laugh about it. And sometimes it gets a little, but anyway, he brought up the comment that crime happens everywhere. It's just enforced in inner city communities, right? And I said, well,
Especially drug laws, it is.
Yeah, and that's
I
insane.
agree with
That's the
drug
majority
law.
of it. Yeah, that's the
I
biggest
agree
problem.
with the drug laws. I agree with that. But I would say, like, property crime, I disagree. I can assure you, I can take you right now and show you $1 million boats sitting with the keys in them, $200,000 boats sitting with the keys in them. There's more, Lake Norman, the lake I live on, has more shoreline than all of North Carolina and South Carolina's entire coast combined. And I encourage you to look at the property crime rates. It's non-existent. There's no crime. They're not. You got $200,000 to $1 million boats sitting with the keys in them, and people aren't stealing them because wealthy people aren't going out and robbing other people.
People that have resources don't have a reason.
As far as, I mean,
unless they're buying politicians and writing laws that make sure they're robbing all of us.
Now, and I'm not saying that. What is that called?
Like Wanda
That's
Sykes.
corruption.
That's corruption.
Wanda Sykes used to say, walking
Yeah.
through Harlem, nobody ever robbed me of my future.
Yeah. I'll agree with that there's corruption. I think the
100%,
level,
yeah.
so let's enforce on that, but there's not property crime, there's not armed robbery, there's not
violent crimes.
There's not violent
Yeah.
crime. There is crime, 100%. I agree with. There's
Yes.
crime everywhere at all levels. I agree with that completely. But they're not stealing my car out of my neighbors are literally not stealing my car out of my driveway. I'm not had the first broken window,
Right.
but I grew up poor. I grew up very different than the life I live now, and I can just tell you as my personal experience, my family dealt with issues.
So why aren't criminals coming there and stealing the $1 million boat and driving it away? You know
Why
what I
aren't
mean?
they?
Yeah.
I have no clue. I live.
Well, criminals typically stay in one area. They stay in their.
They're going to have to
areas.
drive 20 miles down from one point down a one way in, one way out road to get to where I'm at. But so they're going to have to really have some intention to get there. But I don't know. I mean, when I was a
And
teenager,
visibility is a thing too.
and you
know.
This
said
is the house you're going to when shit goes down?
no,
No. He's around too many people.
Okay.
So,
no. But I
I
mean,
want to get away from people.
who knows, man? I mean,
go
you
to
know,
the- go to the mountains.
do wealthy people commit crime? 100%. I don't think they're committing armed robberies, and so I think it's a completely different level. I agree.
Okay.
I think it's some of the stuff we deal with is bullshit, right? And where I live, like, I think some of these things that people sue over are bullshit. Like, you know, you'd be surprised the level of shit. What we deal with in our area is you cut your tree back too far, and that's really my tree, and the limb hangs over in my yard, or your debris fell in my yard, or
Yeah.
you didn't put a silt
Nonsense.
fence. You didn't put a silt fence up, and I had mud run off, and I'm suing you for $300,000.
I can see why you need that gun. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That guy needs to be taken out.
No, and
I'm mad at you about my tree. that
what's
you
hilarious
trimmed.
is most of the people around me do not carry guns because they feel safe, right? And I think that's an illusion. But personal opinion, I don't tell them. I mean, yeah, you want a gun, get one. You don't. They know I've got one, right? But they feel safe and they're good. But the reality is I own an ATM company.
You know,
mean,
if you own a gun, you should be trained for it. Though.
I agree.
You should have to go through some type of training,
Right.
formal training, some education.
So how do you
I
feel
agree
about
with you
the
about-
cashless? Everybody worried about the Cashless Society was an ATM guy.
it's going to take a while.
It's already a cashless society.
It's going
Right.
there, but it's going to take a while to fully go cashless. But then secondary to that, I think one of the things we're doing is the ATMs now you can do gift cards from the ATMs, you can do Bitcoin from the ATMs. So I think it's already starting to affect ATMs, and ATMs are almost becoming point of sales, right? So like look at all-in-one machines. Those are versions originally of some form of an ATM. So you end up with this device, which really what we're talking about is an automated teller machine. We're really talking about an automated machine that's controlling point-of-sale functions. So I think that's part of the evolution that takes place, and it's going to accept cash and dispense cash. So I think you've got an evolution of how it will transition. Maybe those add scanners and things like that, and they only record digital forms of payments. Not sure. I'll tell you, because I do think the writing's on the wall. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I first got into it, let's see, how old am I? 18. 14 years ago, when I first got into it, I was told, you might get 10 years out of this, right?
Right.
Now when you ask people, they still say the same answer. You're probably going to get 10 years out of it. I don't know when the date is. The good news for me is a very small percentage of my revenue comes from ATMs. And the reality is most of our clients, the reason we provide the ATMs, we're providing a service that's needed. If the need goes away over time, we'll just do away with the ATMs. The ATMs themselves don't cost much.
I feel like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, all these decentralized types of currency will always have a place also. And maybe...
Well, eventually, right? You had the guy on here talking about economic theory, right? And all these different currencies.
Governments
eventually,
hate those.
All these different currencies. Eventually, the most streamlined, most efficient structure of an economic model comes down to one currency. All these other things add to inefficiency to the system.
Yeah.
Right. So eventually, if it's allowed to do its own natural progression of evolution, will become one single currency everywhere.
It sort of already is, in a way.
Something like, from my research just on Bitcoin and reading about money and being kind of freaked out that it's just made up and created by,
It has
a
value.
for-profit private company.
Society
right? Like,
is all a construct.
Yeah.
right.
It's
so,
all something we believe in.
But like the other cryptocurrencies don't have the same, to me, advantage of Bitcoin, which is that it grew organically and it's really unchangeable. Like it's not controllable by any central governments,
Right.
as opposed to the other ones, which were created sort of so that the owners could profit off of. They have access to the coding, to the change.
Well, some of the other cryptocurrencies, I don't know a lot about blockchain, but I know that some of them are more efficient at what they do because they do have a
Yes.
function. And
like
it's got to do
Bitcoin
with
won't
transfer.
won't work as a point of sale
Yeah.
because of how long it takes for it to run through
Takes
all
too
the
long
other
for
Bitcoin
the transfers. Yeah.
Yes, so it could be. It's more of like a gold, like a store.
It's a
of-
standard.
It'll be
like
the
a- like a
standard, yeah.
standard.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it's still based on, I guess, probably U.S. currency primarily.
I think for me,
Its value.
so here's the other thing. I'm definitely not ignorant enough to think that I know all the answers, and I think across a lifetime, let's say I'm lucky enough, blessed enough to have 100 years, if something changes in say 6 weeks or 6 months and I miss it, it's 6 months across 100 years. It's relevant.
Right.
Everybody's like, oh, something happened. This stock blew up. It killed. I missed my opportunity. I don't believe opportunities are like that. I think when you've got a long-term approach and you see a shift in an economy, the way something takes place, I just need to become aware of the shift. And where people make mistakes is failure to act. They ride the horse into the ground, right? They ride the ATM till they go completely under, and then they want to bitch and moan and look for a government bailout because their ATM company went over. That's not what you do. If the writing's on the wall, what do? I stop putting money into ATMs. I stop taking on new ATM contracts in advance because I understand there's less. And as ATMs become less and less used in certain locations that we already have, as they become obsolete and, we start to eliminate them. And we literally, over time, filter ourselves down. If the monetary system changes in a way that we need to work on some different type of merchant processing or exchange of value,
Right.
I just need to
You just need to program the ATMs to do that.
right. And if the ATMs aren't going to be the way to do that, then out with the ATM and let's figure out this other thing. And that takes time. All these changes we're talking about, like look how long Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has been around at this point, and it still hasn't taken over. But think about it, it didn't happen overnight. We're not here today in a 6-month window. We're here today, and it's been a decade.
Right.
So whatever change is going to come is going to happen slowly. It'll feel fast when it happens, but it's really happening slowly. So we just got to pay attention, which we are. It's just one thing of what we do, right? And really, what is cash? Like cash is a hold of
It's a
value.
credit.
It's a credit.
Yeah.
It's debt.
It could be debt.
That too.
Yeah. And so you really got to get into it. But I don't care if you pay me in chickens, right? Like if the monetary system collapses, we go back to a barter system. That's fine.
You're going to have a shitload of chickens. Either
Yeah.
way, there's going to be chickens on your $1 million yacht.
Yeah,
or
something.
Something.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't have $1 million yet, by the way. But
I know where you can get one pretty cheap.
Yeah, for free. The key's in it next door. Yeah, the key's literally in it.
Yes.
Now, getting it out of the dock, you got to have a master's degree to do that, apparently. But
While we're talking about money, though, and you had mentioned earlier that money's not real; it's just something we believe in. It is based on
It does represent our labor,
businesses
like he was
and
like he was saying.
GDP and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But
I think there's some value to it. But you were talking about crypto, right? How do you hedge against inflation if you can't control it? Let me give you an example. If the whole world economy goes to Bitcoin, right? And in the United States, if I work 1 hour, and let's just do dumb math, 1 hour got me 1 Bitcoin, but because of the exchange rate in Africa, right, and let's say in Southern Africa, it took 100 hours to earn the same 1 Bitcoin, right? What if it took 1,000 hours to earn 1 Bitcoin or 10,000 hours? Like, I almost feel like on some level, currency has to be tied to the region because, we're not all on the same playing field. The cost of living in California is vastly different than the cost of living in North Carolina. So how can the unit of measure that everybody gets be equal across the border? Because if I get 1 Bitcoin here in North Carolina for an hour's worth of work, and it costs 1 Bitcoin a month for, let's say, for my rent, but in California it costs 10 Bitcoin, like I almost feel like it has to be more geographic. But how do you do that? I have no clue.
So I think that's happening naturally. I think what I said earlier, things are getting better. They're also getting better financially in the world. And believe it or not, capitalism has a lot to do with that. It's actually helped a lot with reducing poverty around the world and providing more resources. I think you have to keep it in check, and you have to.
I think it's destroyed a lot of the resources, and it's made greed.
Well, actually,
It's made greed the engine of greed is the sort of foundation of all of our ideals and our country and ourselves, and I think it's destructive.
So you
and
have to keep huge corporations in check, because the corporation's goal is to make money no matter what.
Right.
So any opportunity they have to increase their bottom line, they're going to take it. So you have to have regulations and checks and balances for those corporations to keep them from just running wild. Kind of like a dog. You want to keep your dog, you want your invisible fence in your yard so your dog doesn't run away.
Right.
Same thing with corporations. It's your opportunity. You want to keep it close by and regulate it so it doesn't get away from you. Now, as far as like money and resources, if you took all the money in the U.S., there's not enough money to go around to everybody. If you divided it evenly amongst all the people in the country, you'd probably have like $20,000 a person. It's 330 million people. So that itself is a big problem. So you can't say, well, let's just raise the minimum wage so everyone makes enough money to pay their bills. Well, if we did that, then no one could pay their bills because there's still not enough money, and then prices on everything are going to go through the roof because the companies that are selling the products, they have to have a certain margin to pay their bills. So that's not going to work. You'd have to have some type of a subsidy program where, number one, we'd have to base our money on something else.
Yeah.
I've made the argument maybe we base a certain portion of our money on people. Like, what does it cost to provide a person with their basic needs for a whole lifetime? And maybe your money, a portion of your money's value is based on the population itself. I think you could do that. Many economists don't. Luis, I've talked to him about that. He's like, well, if you do that, I think that's like Marxism or socialism, and it just won't work because it'll have an opposite effect. I don't know that I agree on that. I think with technology, eventually that's going to happen. But I also think what's going to happen, and what is happening now, is technology subsidizes a lot of these issues. Just think about your phone. Like if you go back to the 80s, all the stuff you get in this device, you would have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to acquire these resources back in the 80s.
Right.
Where now it's just free, basically. It's all subsidized through marketing. And then YouTube. So you get all this free content through marketing. And I think that's what's going to happen in the future. I think eventually a lot of your physical jobs, all your shitty jobs and stuff will be automated through AI and robotics. And then we'll have to find a way to subsidize a lot of people in society, at least subsidize their basic needs. Like there's no reason to me that
you could turn things that have value that we don't value now. Like that's one of the things I talked about in Homo Deus. You were talking about sapiens, like as far as like paying people for childcare.
Right.
Like if you're a husband or a wife that stays home to take care of your children, well, that has value. You know what I mean? If you are providing people rides or whatever, you know what I mean? You start paying people to do things.
Well, cars will be fully autonomous in 10 years.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So your car can actually work for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you could people that volunteer and do to help around in the community.
Right.
We could start to value those things and pay for people to do that.
And especially if we have machines doing everything. Eventually machines will do all of the physical labor, basically. So then you'll have hundreds of thousands, millions of people that maybe have nothing to do. So
this is very hopeful of you. I like this because like I said, I wake up most days thinking about the climate science and thinking that and you look at the science of different extinctions events that have happened throughout the planet's history and we're in one. And
what do you do if
I think that's what's coming? I don't think all this shit you're talking about is going to happen.
What do you do if something bad's about to happen and you know it's going to happen and you can't change it and it's going to happen in 3 days? What do you do the next 3 days?
I try to focus on the moments and
enjoy them, spend time with family.
Yeah.
So that's what I would encourage you to do. Like for me, if
be in the
If
now
it's-
and sort of.
if it's tomorrow for me, then I got to be okay with the day I'm living today. And this is probably a good reason too. Like I say, hey, and my running joke is, I get done. There's all the distractions in the world, right? I've got a little bit of money at least, and I've got options, and I'm a male, which people seem to think that leads me to some level of
you're
entitlement.
evil.
Yeah, which means I'm evil. But I take my big ass home, right? Because I go out in the world. If I'm away from my family, it better be worthwhile. I need to be working towards something that's going to better my family, better my life, better my legacy, better my business. I need to provide value, right?
Right.
And if I'm being a fuck off at a bar or wherever else or with my buddies, that's not really providing a whole lot of value to people, right? So if I'm not going to provide value, if I'm not going to better myself or my family, I need to take my ass home, which is what I do. And then I try to, when I'm there, whether I'm tired or not, I try to make sure that I'm enjoying the best I can, even if I got to put a smile on because I'm exhausted. And I spend 3 hours with my kids, I spend 3 hours with my kids. And then I'm thankful for the second I can lay my head on the pillow and go to bed, right? Like I'm just exhausted. And that's what I try to do. I try not to focus. Whatever's going to happen, if what you're saying is true, you can't control it.
No.
So all you can do is just make sure that the days you're living are worthwhile. And then whatever happens, as it happens, you just got to try and I'm going to survive like until I don't. But that's my mentality. Like I'm going to try to survive. And if China runs the world or Ukraine or Russia or Donald Trump or Barack Obama or whomever, it does not really, in my view, if I'm breathing, I'm going to figure out a way to survive, right? And that's what I'm going to do until I can't anymore. And then at that point, hopefully I've taught my family and my children, like there are people that survive the Holocaust, there are people who survive slavery, people who survive all these things, right? Terrible things, terrible events. So I'm not going to focus on the fact that something bad could happen. I'm just going to focus on, like, what are the things that are important to me, and am I living my life for the betterment of those things? Like, that's I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It's cool.
And also, because I do care about these issues a lot. I think about these things often, every day. And I read a lot of science. And global warming is a real thing. And it is something that we have drastically influenced. If you look at the science, the only time the Earth has warmed quickly like it is now was during the PET, I believe. It's the what does that mean? What's the
Paleolithic?
It's been during the other extinction events, basically, when the carbon's been this much in the atmosphere and
it was the Precambrian, maybe.
So either way, whatever the name is, what's the point right you're making right now?
There was the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. So the Earth warmed drastically back then, and a lot of stuff went extinct, like all the...
But life is still here.
Well, life's not going to go extinct. Life will carry on. We may go extinct. But during that warming event, many plants went extinct. Most plants actually were able to migrate to different climates because if a climate starts to warm in one area, the plants will start to spread away from that area to their areas.
But they can only do it at a certain level.
Right, only at a certain rate. And then that event did happen quickly enough to make all the coral reefs around the globe go extinct, or most of them. They actually were replaced with a different type of reef. And then when things cooled back off, those reefs went extinct, and a new type of reef that's what we have today developed. So evolution, nature does continue on as long as the plant's not completely destroyed. But today's warming is happening 80 times faster than that event. That's what's scary.
That's crazy.
But what's positive about this, though, is that we're aware of it, and scientists are working on ways to find solutions to fix the problem, and it looks like we will. Because
how? We're ignoring that it's happening.
It's not being ignored. There's a lot of research that's going into it. There's a lot of things being done to correct it, and it is being corrected. We will probably only the globe will probably only increase temperature by 1 or 2% over the next 100 years because of the technology the technological advancements that we're experiencing, the things that we're creating, and what we're doing to correct the problem, I think it's egotistic to think that when you look at society as a whole, we're basically like a big anthill, right? We're this big colony of animals doing something. What are we doing? Like when you look at a massive city, that's millions of brains working together to create that thing. And we don't really know what we're doing. It's evolution. It's just nature evolving. We are nature. This microphone is nature. It's all nature evolving and creating something. And I think we're probably evolving into some higher life form, with technology. I think we are technology. I think, we just somehow separate ourselves from nature, and we act like, just because this is a cool piece of electronic technology, it's not nature, but it is. It's all the same shit. And I think we adapt, and I think we are I think we are nature reaching another level of consciousness, gaining the ability to manipulate the environment, and now we have to figure out how to do it without destroying the environment. And if we happen to kill ourselves, then the humans will go extinct, but nature will carry on and find a better way in the future.
Right.
I don't think we'll go extinct, but things can happen. I think 10, 15,000 years ago, or maybe, no, about 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens almost went extinct because of some kind of a volcanic eruption or meteor impact or something. They speculate that the human population dropped to like 10,000, and then rebuilt from there. So we could always be impacted by a meteorite. Some large meteor or asteroid could hit the planet and kill us all, or a volcano. Yosemite could erupt.
Yeah, I was going to make a joke about not with Donald Trump's Space Force blowing meteorites out of the goddamn.
Well, actually, if the whole world would actually put more resources into looking for those problems and fixing those events, instead of trying to build nuclear weapons to destroy ourselves, we'd be better off, because we do have the technology to prevent a giant meteor from impacting the planet if we would put our resources into that technology. Because right now we're helpless. We may see it, but we can't stop it.
I think, and some version of what you're so like, this is where I don't know where I lie on certain things as far as when you try to come up with some generic term like Democrat or Republican, or it's just too broad. There's too many things that can mean, right? For me,
Right.
But like when I look at certain things like this, like a consequence of life is death, period. So when you're born, the rest of your life is made up of a series of decisions that could lead to your eventual death, right?
Death begins at conception.
Exactly, right? At
We
some
need to
point.
tell that to the pro-lifers.
Right? Yeah. So if that's the case, then really all we can do as a society or a bunch of ants or whatever analogy you want to use, right, is work on eliminating these ways that we die, which if you think about it, that's some version of what we do, right? Smoking kills. So they're not banning smoking, but they're trying to make it, they're trying to provide information, right?
Cigarettes don't kill people.
Yeah, right.
Smokers
Smokers,
kill themselves.
They kill themselves.
Which should be earlier.
If that's what they want to do. Listen, I'm not a smoker, but if
should be
you,
legal.
You shouldn't have a gun. You take 40 years.
yeah. I mean, I think if you want to smoke, you should smoke. I think it's a terrible idea. But if you want to, you should. I own businesses that sell cigarettes. I don't smoke.
Right.
You're welcome to smoke if you'd
Am
like.
I cool?
Right?
Is it cool if I smoke next to your pregnant wife?
No,
That's different.
Yeah.
Why?
Then you're infringing on someone else's rights.
because she's breathing that air.
I think
So-
you can do whatever you want to do as long as you're not affecting someone else.
Yeah, I think the moment that
Yeah.
your rights infringe on somebody else, so like you said, pregnant wife, like now, let's say that my pregnant wife is in an area that's designated that it's allowed to smoke.
Yeah, if she's hanging out in the cigar bar,
Then hey,
on her.
don't
It's
be a
not
dumb.
my fault your wife can't read.
Yeah, it's not only does she can't read, she apparently is distributing that she can't make good decisions, right? And that's definitely humans are definitely guilty of that too, right? I'm open. So, but do you think people should be able to smoke?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't think the government.
I don't think the companies should be able to spend years pretending that they're not, that that it's fake science that they're killing people, and they
I agree with
Absolutely.
that.
And they
I
should,
agree with that.
You know, that they should be able to
I agree with that.
figure out ways to push it on people that, you know, to make it more addictive. I just don't.
I agree
think,
with that.
You know,
I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
And I think if the United States were having and I'm not a big fan of politicians in general, and I can say that blanketly because I don't know them well, right? The ones I've met,
I'm more baffled, like, nowadays, how people can be that supportive of any politician, like
Yeah.
that sort of, this is the guy. Like,
Yeah.
to me, that's nuts.
What
Yeah.
I think what solves it is people, even with different opinions, because like I'm listening to you talk and I hear something that I go, you know what, that makes sense. I'm not so steadfast in my beliefs that they can't be changed. I'd love to have an intellectual conversation. I'd love to hear other people's opinion. Why is it you think what you think? And maybe through that conversation, we can all find some common ground and go, listen, we don't disagree that people should be able to smoke. We agree there needs to be regulations. We agree that these for-profit entities lied to their people. We agree that they did things that were predatory. We can agree on all those things. The only place I disagree is I would say, just because someone took advantage or someone broke the law or someone did something illegal should not prevent me, who has not, from being able to exercise my right? So
Right.
it's where other people make mistakes. It'd be like the equivalent of he commits a crime, but you put me in prison for it. Like, I don't like that. Like, if I didn't do anything wrong, I shouldn't be punished for it, right? So like,
But we
there's-
do that too. Like
We
we
do.
were talking about earlier in the drug war. Like,
Yeah.
if your kid, if you live in public housing and
Yeah.
your kid
You're right.
is outside with a joint, you
Yeah.
didn't even know he had it.
That's
but
right.
he lives at your house, you lose your house.
You're
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah.
And I agree. That's a problem. Matter of fact, I think
Or like
almost
Kamala
all-
Harris wanting to arrest mothers for their kids skipping school.
Yeah.
Like, how insane is that?
There's
A single mom.
yeah.
I don't know. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
actually,
why
Tulsi
I don't even want to
Gabbard
get back
called her
on
out.
this, but I cannot believe he picked Kamala because I feel like he set himself up. I feel like there's a few other people he should. I understand, but
She's the worst. She's like part of the problem right now with all the criminal justice issues. There's so many people that have been that are on death row or in prison, wrongfully accused people that
The people that I want are always
eliminated.
eliminated like early. You know, like
Yeah.
even when Obama was running, I was like, I like this Kucinich guy. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yeah.
know, like I'm always I want even more radically
I
You
like
know,
Tulsi Gabbard a lot.
less.
I like. I Tulsi
didn't have a
seemed good.
chance.
But I'm also the. All right, let's say that that whatever Joe version, whatever Joe wins, right? You want to call him Sleepy Joe or Smelly Joe, or they like to play with my blonde hair on my legs, Joe in the pool, whatever.
Right.
Let's say he wins. For the most part, okay, I'm going to continue to operate. Let's say the tax laws change for corporations. Okay, right? What citizens don't realize is you tax the corporation, I'm just going to raise my price to my consumer, period. You force the payroll up, I'm just going to raise the product to my consumer, period.
Or maybe
Okay.
close certain businesses.
And it's
If
fine.
you need to.
And actually, all of our people are paid. I would like to say, I believe we don't have anybody except for my 9-year-old that makes minimum wage. We don't hire people at that, and we do try to take into consideration where we're at. And I think our people are.
So do you, by paying people more than you have to, how does that benefit you?
Well, if you can pay people higher, you get better
People,
more
less,
efficient employees.
more efficient, less turnover,
Yeah.
more competition for the
loyalty.
job, more loyalty,
Yeah.
less competition for the job, or less.
So is that part of why you're successful, as opposed to somebody that you compete against that pays their people shit and then just runs through
Well,
people
some
like
businesses you can't,
like they're
you know.
they're just, you know.
So I think part of our success is we try to teach our employees an ownership mentality, whether they own or not. And it's actually a fair amount of our employees have turned into owners. And people go, well, this is a self-defeating thing. Why would you teach people to become owners? And I believe personally, and I think we believe that just like if you're an employee, the quickest way to get a raise or a promotion is to train your replacement. So literally, if you build up enough successful people underneath you, you in turn are going to be successful, and that's what we promote in our organizations. I want people to be happy. I want people to be successful. But we also have to remember that means different things to different people. And to give you an example, I have people that are paid very, very well that have opportunities to move up that don't take them.
Because they're fine where they are.
Because they're fine where they are, and
Or they're
choosing.
afraid to take on more responsibility.
They're afraid to take more responsibility. They don't. I also have people that don't want to work nights. They don't want to work weekends. They don't want to be. They don't want to be. If you're a manager, you're responsible for other people, and those other people don't show up for some reason. Unfortunately, as a manager, you might have to go in and cover some emergency. And if my groups of managers don't do it, and my regionals managers don't do it, then I will take myself and I will go do it, and I will cover a location or a business or a thing in the case of an emergency. Right? I've done it. I've done it recently. Right? So.
Is that why you're late today?
No, it's not.
Scheduling error.
No, that was when I was talking about earlier about human ignorance. That was an example of my human ignorance.
You don't even have an assistant to blame that on.
I'm telling you, I should have an
He
assistant.
should have an assistant. That would probably.
But it was solely me. I literally copied his message that said 12 p.m. I put it in the body of the schedule. It says it clear as day, and I scheduled it for 3 o'clock like an idiot. So, so that's on me. And my wife laughed. I said, she said, well, who are you going to blame for that? I'm like, I'm going to look in the mirror. I'm going to blame myself. But I think it's part. But to answer your question, I do think it's part of the reason we're successful. I think it's also us solving issues internally. Like some people pay people $10 an hour because that's what they can pay them. We try to pay people based on the performance of the entity, whatever that thing is. So like our thing is, if we have a team of 12 people that run this business, and we say, listen, the more efficient, the less loss, the less turnover, the more each of us does our part, the bigger the pie is. And let's say that I'm paying people based on a percentage. If the percentage of salary I can pay is 20% of our revenue, and you guys help effectively grow the revenue, and you help effectively limit losses through theft or whatever else, right, and damage, and you guys are helping run this business, then that 20% gets bigger. And that means that I have the ability to pay you guys more money. So I'm willing to make the pay commensurate with production on some level, right? And then if you make your company, then if your company becomes like a public company, does that get eliminated? Because now it's like shareholders that are getting their money before. I think that's the problem with public companies, is that they're accountable to shareholders, right?
We don't take big salaries as CEOs.
Actually, I have zero.
I mean, we take small salaries from different companies, but if our employees, say it takes all the money the company's, say a hardship happens and it takes all the money, all the revenue the company generates to pay the employees, we don't get paid.
Yeah, and actually we've had that happen.
We get paid last.
Yeah, that's the name of the game. Like, so actually for every company that I own, and I'm not talking about consulting contracts or other people are paying me to help them. Every company that I own.
We do mostly consulting now, but
I don't get paid any salary. So if you were my partner,
do you make more money as a business person doing consulting of other people's businesses and telling them how to do theirs than having your own?
I think.
And do you ever consult like, okay, you're just bad at business and you need to sell this business?
Well, yeah, because we're getting a little bit of a lot.
Okay.
So here's a good analogy. Let's say that you were making $17 a week, right?
Right.
And then times that by 1,000 locations. I'd rather have 1,000 people pay me $17 a week. That's $17,000 a week. Than I would one business that pays me $17,000 a week.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
So for me, I would rather have a lot of clients that pay me a small amount of money, and this way there's less volatility in our revenue. That's one piece of it. Depending on the time, there are periods where we make more from consulting than we do our businesses. There are periods where my businesses do well. There's periods where the real estate does better, right? It's going to ebb and flow just like anything else. And usually when one thing is at its peak, something else is bottoming out. And it's really funny how that inverse relationship works. But through COVID, we were paying we had no revenue coming in. Everything was closed. We continued to pay our people. So the business didn't have the money. So we pulled it out of our pocket and we literally paid. And we're not big business. We're not corporate America. We didn't get some massive bailout. Like, we just covered it and went on, And this is a small thing.
I think that, to me, that's like when they were bailing out the airlines. It's like, what? That's your business. This is, you should be factoring in that sometimes terrible shit's going to happen and you're not going to make any money.
Technically, those businesses should go out of business and someone else should come in and
I
take
agree
that
completely.
company.
Actually,
but it's a little different with a pandemic, So, I mean, I'm really concerned about all the relief money that has gone out, because the inflation is going to be drastic. I think inflation is typically about 3% a year. So if you put all your money in the bank, you're losing about 3% a year in your money's value. What do you think it could go up to after this? 5%?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
But shouldn't it have gone up a lot when they pumped all that money in the last collapse when Obama took over?
It did. Well, see,
And it
In-
didn't really,
interest rates-
inflation didn't go crazy.
Well, it's because they're keeping interest rates down.
They're keeping it artificially low.
But
so,
now the interest rates are already low.
yeah.
This happened, so there's nowhere for it to go. So I think we're going to see a huge economic issue next year.
At some point, they got to raise the interest rates, right? And there's
Yeah.
this political maneuvering that's going on, and I'm not intelligent enough to fully decipher it, but this is part of the issue. It's like one party almost sometimes sets the next party up to fail, and on some level, there's a lot of pulling strings. And I'm going to say, at least in sometimes, I've seen it on both sides. I definitely see it on the Republican side. I've seen it on the Democratic side, right? It can be interpreted that way, right? But at the end of the day, what I come back to that same mentality. Everybody's like, make the companies pay. But what they really are saying is, make the companies pay means we want to pay more for our, instead of paying $4 for that coffee at Starbucks, you want to pay $6.
No, I think I want Bank of America to pay taxes. I think I
Yeah.
want.
But are they paying taxes?
No.
No. Are they? How many people do they employ?
Yeah, they're paying a lot of taxes.
You know, my number one expense as a business owner is taxes, and my second expense is employees. Remember, every dollar the employee pays in tax, I have to match as an employer. That's not ever waived. I don't care what deductions I get. That's paid, period. First.
What do you mean
corporate tax-
every dollar they pay, you pay?
I have to match. And when you have, as an employee, when
Well,
you have
certain taxes that
yeah,
the tax
I have
code,
to
yeah.
match those taxes that you're paying the government. I pay taxes too for you to work.
Okay.
And that doesn't get waived. Everybody forgets about that. Nobody talks about it. Amazon is paying billions and billions a year in payroll tax.
Corporate taxes.
So they're not paying.
So
they're
like-
not paying. Like when people say Amazon's paying zero tax, that's
They're-
not
It's
true.
not true.
They're
They're
paying-
paying zero
corporate tax.
corporate tax.
But Jeff Bezos is still paying tax on his money. Any money he makes from that company, he's paying a huge tax on. And then all of his employees are paying taxes on all the money they're getting paid.
so
And then all the shareholders are getting paid. They're paying taxes on the
Yeah.
money they're profiting too. Now,
So why are they saying they're not paying? Why is there a
Well,
because
it's
it's a corporate tax.
It's like saying, and I'm not trying to get political here, but it's like saying Black Lives Matter. I agree with that statement.
right?
I can agree with that statement and disagree that we should defund the police. I agree that if you look at it if you look at it and say Amazon is not
What if they
paying,
named it something besides defund the police? What if they made it?
if defund the police was not part of that one thing, let's say Black Lives Matter was, and it's all Black Lives Matter, which means the black lives that are being killed by other black people, the black lives that are being killed by police, Black Lives period matter, I'm all for it. I'd come out there with a picket and I'd join you on the street.
No, I mean, if defund the police just meant we're not going to put as much money into militarization of police, we're going to
Demilitarize would have been
it should
better.
be.
I like
Yeah,
demilitarize
I
the
like that.
police.
Or-
I'm fine with that.
Or just reform the police.
Reform the police. I'm
Right.
fine with that.
You don't want to defund. We need police. We need secure.
And they need to be paid.
No police, you'd have
Yeah.
chaos. I think we need to reform the
But-
police. We need to demilitarize.
That's my new
militarize the
joke. You know
police.
who's really mad at defund the police? Old racist police. They already defund the police. I can't even hit them with the billy club anymore. It's no fun at all. This is the end. This
But-
is the no fun PD is what we
Yeah,
got.
yeah. But
That's
so if you
funny.
look at Amazon and you say, okay, well, Amazon didn't pay any federal tax on the corporation's income. If you're very specific, I'll say, okay, I agree with that. Saying Amazon didn't pay any tax is a lie
Yeah, that's not true.
because they
Okay.
paid billions and billions of dollars just in payroll tax. And then how about this?
And if you took all of Amazon's money, it still wouldn't fix the problem.
Yeah, well, they're paying all that.
We don't have enough money.
If Amazon just flipped and was like, we're only taking Bitcoin, would that shake up the economy?
That's a good question.
Could they
Probably
change the
not.
monetary
You know, they
system?
created their own cryptocurrency, and they haven't launched it yet. But Microsoft did.
It's still based on U.S. dollars. though.
Yeah, you know,
Okay.
The
I
value
don't.
of it.
I don't know the answer to that. I'd love to know, but Amazon paid billions and billions in employee tax, right? They paid sales tax, right? Or their clients paid the sales tax, right? They collected and turned over sales
So
tax.
saying you're going to raise the corporate tax rate doesn't really, it doesn't.
All that
you're
stuff
not,
is-
You're
is,
not really collecting much. They've already paid all their taxes.
It's
Well, if you're
highly
running a
complicated.
corporation, corporations are entities that are designed, right? So I've got this legal. So let's look at our corporation. Our corporation is not designed to pay tax. Our corporation is an entity. It's a placeholder, and we have all this revenue that comes in. The two biggest expenses to us, at least in our corporations, are taxes and employees.
But see, when
Do you
we
have a
say
nonprofit?
taxes,
I'm in the process of starting a nonprofit actually, but it's not for.
It's not to hide your money.
No. No, it's and I've got two charitable organizations that we fund through that are not related to me that we do, and I'm in a process of starting a nonprofit to. I'm going to use the NRA as an example, like an NRA-esque, something that is designed, but mine's for the benefit of children. Like I'm not sympathetic towards adults typically. I'm very sympathetic to kids because they can't control what they're brought up in.
Right.
But I'm working on an organization to do that. But that's not for me to profit from. That's for me to give money to, a way to direct proceeds to.
Okay.
But when you look at,
But there's a huge tax break to having a nonprofit and funneling your money through that, right?
I don't know. It depends on if I was going to pay myself a salary, which I don't.
Right.
And most of the corporations I have, I don't. And then it's basically what I'm trying to form. I think it's called an NGO, which is like the Red Cross is an NGO, I believe. So, but I'm not. I think there's ways to abuse anything. That's not the. Again, it comes down to what are the motives of somebody, right? How do you figure that out?
Yeah.
But legally, any charity,
I think from his perspective, it's, either you can pay it to the government, who will probably squander it, or you
Right.
can put it into a charity.
Yeah, like when I wrote my check to the government for my taxes a couple weeks in July,
Yeah.
I brought that money into the bank and just was like, I was going to put solar panels on the house and have a backup
Well,
plan. You know what I mean? Like it's,
I don't
I
mind-
made a lot of money, so I had to send them a lot of money, but
Yeah.
still, it's like,
I don't
God,
mind paying
could I
taxes,
just, could I direct this to?
Yeah.
Is there a way that I could give that to something else besides what I?
Yeah.
Let's say
disagree with what
let's
they
say
spend
that
money
I
on so
individually
much.
pay $1 million in taxes. And this is hypothetical, right? And then I pay $4 or $5 million in payroll taxes, matching my employees' taxes, and then I pay $600,000 or $700,000 in property tax across the properties that I own. So I literally pay millions of dollars to the state and federal government a year. But if you looked at one of my corporations, you could say that this corporation pays zero tax, and everybody would blanketly go, Daniel pays no taxes.
That's what I just did with Amazon and Bank of America.
Right. Now, I can agree on some level, if you're looking at it in a very narrow view, Amazon's not paying this specific tax, but doesn't mean they're not paying any taxes.
And
It
with
doesn't mean they're not
Amazon, they're
contributing.
getting tax incentives to go in certain areas. So the federal government's saying, if you're expanding your business, we're going to not charge you a corporate tax.
Right. And you're going to bring
And-
5,000 employees to Guilford County, and that's 5,000 people that don't have jobs. That's 5,000 people that are going to get an average income of $65,000. We just brought the average income up. This is money for our schools. This is people that are getting houses. This is people paying rent. This is people buying properties, people paying sales tax, people registering automobiles. It increases. Amazon coming has a value, right? And so the state and the city are willing to forego tax because they've got very smart mathematicians that go, we're going to get all this.
And those big corporations like that are really complex. But if you look at a normal corporation, like an S Corp or an LLC, that company's not designed to make money anyway. That all the money that company makes passes through to the owners,
And then
to
I
the
have to pay
employees,
taxes.
and then those people pay taxes on that money.
So as a comedian and a writer,
You
right?
should have a LLC.
Yeah, so I was just going to
Yeah.
ask you, like, if I'm getting ready to get a job writing on a television show.
Yeah.
Right.
You should be paid through your corporation.
I don't have a corporation. Should I be setting up a corporation
100%.
Right,
first?
Yeah.
100%.
Yes. Yeah. You should have
You need to get an accountant
You know-
and an attorney, and
Tom Simmons LLC or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Should I have been doing that all along
Yes.
for my stand-up?
Oh, 100%.
Well, actually, right now the tax laws have changed, so you're really hurting yourself financially by not having an LLC because
agree.
you're technically not allowed to write off certain things as an individual, whereas you would be as a company.
Yeah.
What are the disadvantages?
There are none.
Man,
You're actually you're protecting yourself.
Why is it easier to be a corporation than it is a person? Doesn't
Well, because the corporation's a business, and if you separate yourself from your work, and you get sued, they're suing the company. They're not suing you personally.
They
right?
can't take your personal assets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But if
Maybe.
so the company, then I would, let's say I got
it's a layer of
$3
protection.
grand to do a comedy gig,
Right.
and they paid that to my corporation. Then I would give myself a salary out of that.
Well, you'd
company
pay
would
yourself
me.
that $3 grand,
Well,
but
and
you would also write off all your expenses, your
I would-
food and your
I wouldn't
travel.
pay yourself $3 grand.
Well, yeah.
What you would do is, so this is a real, and that's what he's getting ready to get to, is what you would do is 3,000, because if you got paid $3 grand, did you really make $3 grand or did you have expenses?
Depends, but let's say after expenses I had $3 grand.
Right. So the difference is, as an employee, let's say they paid you $5, but you only had $3 grand after expenses. As an employee, you pay taxes on all 5. As a business, you pay taxes on what's left, which is the $3,000.
Okay, so so the corporation would then first of all would pay my
Operating
management and my agent and
You're
their percentages, and then
Should you pay tax if I can? Let's say I own this company, and this can with all the fluid in it costs me $1,
right.
and I sell it for $3. My profit is $2, not $3, because my hard costs have to be factored in.
Right.
I don't pay sales tax on
Plus
my
your shipping
cost
costs,
and shipping costs. and everything else.
employees.
I pay
Yeah.
taxes on the profit, so I should be able to write off the cost, because what the government is saying is we want our fair share of the profit. And as an employee, the government doesn't trust you at all. The government takes their money off the top. It comes right out. You want proof of this? If you're really getting paid as an employee, usually the money is out of your check before you ever get your check.
Right.
Right? They're line item deductions.
Oh, yeah.
As a business, if that person switched to being paid as a business, all the money pre-deductions goes into the business's corporate account. You can pay all your operating expenses, and there's tax law to from here to the moon about what you can and can't do. But, and I'm not going to say people don't abuse it.
And it
but-
changes every year.
And it does. But you take out all your expenses, and then you distribute to yourself what's left, and you pay taxes on that amount. This is why businesses most corporations are not designed to pay taxes. They're literally, here's all my expenses, here's all my revenue. The leftover amount is going to be distributed to Daniel. That leftover amount was $100,000. I'm in X tax bracket. I'm going to pay $35,000 based on me being this tax bracket. I get to keep $65,000.
And if you left, let's say you left $30,000 in the business.
Then you've got tax.
Then
problem.
you get a tax. Then you get a tax issue, a liability
your
issue.
company would pay the
Your
tax.
company then has a taxable situation.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not a way to avoid it. There's ways you can delay, and like people go, oh well.
I just want to pay what I owe.
Yeah,
and pay as
they
little
say,
as
well,
possible.
Donald Trump.
But you
didn't-
need to be able to write off.
Yeah.
You know, like your laptop. You need a laptop to work on.
I've always written that off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've changed the law, so technically you're not allowed to do that now unless you're a corporation.
Yeah, they
Or
just changed it in
LLC.
the last one, right?
Yeah.
Because we used to have like food deduction depending on what state you're in per day. And
Yeah.
pay for. I would write off all my hotels, all
Your
my
meals,
flights, all my miles.
all that stuff
Yeah.
should be tax deductible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need to do it through an LLC.
Yeah, they're changing the rules as individuals, but and again, here's the thing. So a lot of people are saying they take exception that that's allowable, right? And they say, well, why is it like the question you said? Why is it more difficult to have write-offs as an individual than as a business? Okay, well, don't be mad at the business or the people. That's the rules. So me as a business owner, these are the rules I have to play by. I'm going to play by these rules the best I can. If you change the rules, that's okay. I'm not going to waste my breath bitching about it after the fact. I'm going to change the way I operate, and I'm going to operate within those rules.
I got a question. What about like LLC? Yeah, but sole proprietorships are just SOL.
I think from a liability situation, and again, I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, but I think from a liability situation, I wouldn't want to have a sole proprietorshiip, but
You still have the same.
I've had one forever just because
Yeah.
I couldn't afford the costs of an LLC up until.
You have the same
so-
tax.
But you can take
The
deductions.
same general deduction
of
advantage.
gear and equipment and stuff like that.
But it's
from a
just if
business.
you get sued, it's you being sued.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that so as a sole proprietor and you doing that, it allows you to have those, let's say some of those tax benefits,
Yeah.
but you're losing the liability side. So
Right.
What would I ever be liable for as a comedian?
You could say something
Oh.
that offends someone.
man, I could
Oh my God!
literally.
Yeah.
Have you not
you
seen
could defamate
comedian-
somebody's character. You could
comedians being
sexual
sued?
harassment. You know,
There are
If-
comedians being sued today, right now, for saying something offensive, like because and what's going on is they're doing defamation lawsuits, and now it's
If you become very successful, you will be sued for sure.
100%.
Okay.
We've
No
caught
way around
people on film, thankfully,
Could be a venue sues you for some reason.
that have purposely fallen out of chairs and tried to sue us.
Okay.
At different businesses, we've had people that we've caught on camera, look at the cameras, looking around, and literally run into the door. Right?
That's great.
And fall and claim subsequently that someone was coming out of the door and hit them in the face with the door.
How long do you let them go before you show them the video?
Oh, well, typically what
Insurance
happens is
deals with it.
yeah, typically the event happens in the moment, and the police are called, the ambulance called. That's what they do. They don't want help. They want the ambulance to show up. They
course.
want the thing. And I'm not going to say things don't happen. If something happens, like me as an owner, if something happens on my property, and you got hurt, and it was at my fault, to me it's common sense. Just like if you, as my friend, were in my home, and I did something to hurt you, I'm going to take you to the hospital. I'm going to offer to pay your medical expenses. Like, it's a common sense thing to me. What's funny is that's not, a lot of times that's not what it is. It's people, the moment you have something, there are people out there that are trying to take advantage. So, but the running joke I say is, the problem is not making money. Making money is easy. The problem is keeping the money you make. Because the moment you make it, the government wants it. Your citizens want it. Yeah. Your neighbors want it. Your peers want it. Your competition wants it. Your customers want it. Like, everybody, your son wants to go in the Major League Baseball, right? Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
Are they willing to put the sacrifice in and delayed gratification? Is he willing to hit the bucket of balls off the tee every day?
Nope.
Right? But let me ask you this. If your son doesn't do it, do you still think he deserves to be in the MLB?
I do not.
Okay, so if you live this life and you don't put the work in, do you deserve the reward? And this is the problem I have is I'm all about, if you're out there and you're contributing to society, I think you should live a good life. I think you should have food. I think you should have housing. I think you should have all these things.
Do you buy into those who work hardest succeed and those who and
I'm evidence of that, and I know I can name you.
You don't think you're the exception to that sometimes? You don't think there's people out there that bust their ass every day and can never get up?
Well, what decisions are they making?
Okay.
I'd have to really
fair.
dial into it, right? But I would argue that I can take anybody that's willing to go through the process and make them a millionaire. It'll take time. They're going to make a lot of decisions they don't like, and I'm going to make you're going to say it's not worth it.
I'm in.
Yeah, but are you?
Yes.
Because you're doing what it takes, though.
No, I think you're an exception. You are working, but I can introduce you to people that have told me that they're not willing. So you say you're in, and then I tell you you're not going to see your son for dinner or for lunch or any of his games for the next 3 years, that something is going to happen and you're going to have to leave. Something's going to happen and you're going to have to break commitments to your wife. Something's going to happen with your business and you're going to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and be tied up till 6 o'clock in the morning because someone robbed your store in the morning and your employee was hurt and they had to go to the ambulance and you got to go run the store. Like, are you really willing to forego vacations?
That's what I've done for 20 years.
Yeah, then I would say.
Well,
I've never even gone for broke, and I've achieved it.
Come on.
I
love it.
I don't think. Number one, I don't think everyone wants to be successful.
That's the thing too. Everybody doesn't want what I want.
I think a lot of people just want to have their basic needs and have a decent life.
Yeah,
and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that
not everybody wants to be in the MLB.
I think 80% of people in the U.S. hate what they do, and that's a problem. I think that we need to make society better where people can at least enjoy life. And I don't think that necessarily somebody that really wants to be successful can be successful. You know, maybe they don't have the mental fortitude to do it, or they're not competent enough to do it, or maybe they're just not wired for that, whatever it takes to do that. We're all different, and a lot of our traits we don't even know what they are, why we have them, or why we think the way we do. That's just who we are.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's a big part of it. But I think being successful at something too doesn't necessarily mean monetarily successful. Like, you're a successful comedian, and you're very good at what you do. I think I do believe if you keep doing what you're doing, maybe you could make some different decisions or target different aspects of comedy and make more money and become a millionaire through that. I think you have a talent too. I don't think anybody can be a successful comedian. I think you have the ability, the talent to do that, but I think that you could be a less talented comedian and make more money than a really talented comedian because of your work ethic and your desire to be successful.
And your business side. There's a business show business.
Business aspect.
Yeah.
Some people are more sort of artistic and like for me, it's like, I don't want to do that work. That's not the fun part.
Yeah.
And
but you have to do that.
That is miserable.
Then
I'm not going to do this if I got to do the
Yeah.
miserable shit.
You got to pay somebody to do the miserable shit. So I'll tell you, there was some analogy which I'm not going to get correct, but it basically said this: when you first start off in business, comedian, whatever, in the beginning, you're going to work for a lot less than what you're worth.
Of course.
A lot less. And actually, I think that's probably going to be true for the first 3 to 5 years. And then I would say, and this is what I would talk about people that want to be, that are entrepreneurial, that want to start a business, that want to, or they want to be they want to be an employee and they want to climb the corporate ladder and they want to become a millionaire through that mechanism. That's fine. Again, first 3 to 5 years, you're going to be heavily underpaid. You're going to overwork and you'll be underpaid. And I because You can't just go clock the 9 to 5 and expect to climb the corporate ladder, because you got to solve problems. You got to bring value, added value.
Right.
Right? I'm not going to promote you because I can't promote you to be responsible for 50 of your peers when you solely show up and do the 9 to you do the bare minimum, which is what we contractually agreed to. You're going to show up between these hours, you're going to do this task.
Even those people are better than 80%, right?
That's true.
The people that show up and just show up every day and do
And
the
I
job.
love those people.
Right.
I love those people. I'm just saying, though, but if you want to step up and you want to manage 50 of your peers, you have to be able to demonstrate that that's what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Right.
So the first 3 to 5 years, I think you're going to be heavily underpaid. I think maybe the next 5 to 10 years, you're probably going to be paid about what you're worth. I think from 10 years on, you're probably going to be overpaid. And I think if you equate that to, and that's the employee path, if you equate that to ownership in a business, I think you can work 20, 30 years and never be successful financially, and then hit and probably be wildly successful. And it starts to feel, I mean, I've lost everything. Everything. It's never been easy.
Right.
And I mean, man, I put years of effort back in, 18 months of which I'm living in my parents' 2-car garage with carpet cut out of the house I lost on the concrete with a wife and 2 kids, and then she got pregnant. When was it going to work? Like, when was I going to start making money again? I had no clue. You just kept working, right? It's like, I'm just going to keep working, and eventually I'm going to make money.
Right.
And eventually I did. And in the beginning, it was I was living off $500 a week and thankful for it when I got there. When I got to $500 a week, I was so thankful for $500 a week.
Right.
Right. And then it stayed there forever. I'm like, man. And then the compound effect of all that work, eventually it just clicked. And then it's like a light bulb went off, and now all of a sudden, boom, I can do all these different things in my life.
Did anything change, or just putting in that work eventually got you over
just
that hill?
put in the work, put the horse blinders on, ignore the distractions. You know, people are doing vacations, they're buying cars, they're doing this, they're doing that. Just delayed gratification. I ignore all those things. I didn't buy clothes, didn't buy jewelry. I literally worked. We used the bare minimum to live. Every single other penny I made had to be invested, every dime. Everything was all about, and I would wake up, I work. I literally would try to kiss the kids 15 minutes in the morning. If I could make it home before they went to bed, that was my goal, to see them 15 minutes at night. And if I didn't, I didn't, right? And I've just earned. And you just literally wake up and repeat every day. And eventually, you start to get revenue. And then revenue starts to allow me to delegate to other people, which means this is where I start hiring staff. And I start being able to pick the least desirable things first. So you said, hey, there's these business things you hate to deal with. Well, the very first thing you should hire for is somebody to deal with these business things so you don't have to, right? That's evidence of you running a business, right? As an individual, you should pay other people to do the things you don't want to do, right?
Yeah, it frees up your time so you can do more of what you're good at and what you want to do and what makes you money.
And then rinse, wash, repeat. You just do it over and over and over again, right? And the problem I find that mostly, and this is so generic and so broad, you don't know the number of people I meet that say they can't get by, but yet they've got new TVs or new tattoos,
right?
Or they smoke cigarettes, or they drink coffee every day, right? Like, if you just took a cup of coffee a day, and we'll have to throw it in a something to annualize it out over 30 years, but take a cup of coffee, throw it in the stock market, any Fortune 500, and do it across 30 years, and I guarantee you it's 6 figures. Guarantee you it's over $100,000. And people are drinking it every day, right? And now, no, I mean, but people are like, oh, I've been at this for 30 years,
and I gotta get whiten my teeth now.
Yeah,
damn it.
Yeah, but people are like, oh, I've been doing this for 30 years, and how come I'm broke? Well, I don't know. What'd you do with your money?
Yeah,
I don't know. Like, it's just a different.
And people tend to live above their means instead of below their means too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have credit cards? Are you paying them off every week?
Yes.
Are you paying them off month? Like, and I'm not a Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey believes in leverage when it comes to people and his business, but he does not believe in leverage when it comes to his money. At least that's what he teaches, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Because if you don't believe in leverage, then why do you hire other people, right? If you don't believe in leverage, then why do you believe that let's say I make $100 an hour, and this task I can pay someone $10 an hour to do. I literally net $90 an hour by delegating it to somebody else, by leveraging people.
Right.
So he believes in leverage in one aspect, but not the other. But that's also his shtick. That's That's his gimmick.
It's made him millions of dollars.
It's making him millions of dollars, right? This is what he's the path. And what he's saying is not a lie. It's not my way, but it is a way.
What's his way? His way is
His
save
way is
money.
debt-free and save.
Right.
Right? And
really safe.
Safe. And guess what? He's not wrong. Right? I mean, his method is not wrong if that's for you. If your goal is to be debt-free, Dave Ramsey can help you be debt-free. Right? Like, so I'm not disagreeing with his advice. It's right for
that
certain
debt-free
people.
thing has really come in handy
But if
the
you
last
have-
4 months for me.
There you go.
Having my house paid off and
And guess what? If I was debt-free the first time around, I wouldn't have lost everything.
Right.
So I'm not going to say it's not got its, but
But I think the thinking too is if you have, say you have $1 million in assets, and you don't leverage any of it, you just have $1 million in assets. You could actually leverage that $1 million and have $10 million in assets. Or $8 million.
Again, it comes down to the goal, right? But me I like to think that other people are this way, but I know they're not. Like, I'm okay with the consequences. If my statement is I'll risk it all, and if I lose it, I'll start over. I've verbalized it. Whether I understood what that meant or not, it's a whole different thing. And I lived it, and I went through it.
what can you tell?
Now I don't say that shit anymore, by the way.
Can you tell, like, if you sit in a room with a competitor, like if you look at their business and you look at them, can you tell?
I
Like,
can.
This guy isn't a competitor. You know what I mean?
100%. I mean, like, I'm not the. We're not the. I feel like we get a read off people.
Yeah.
I can tell. Well, because you can just tell in their mannerisms, how they talk, what's important to them. Are they going out? Like, we go out to a business meeting. Him and I we may be at a bar. Him and I are there for business. We're not there socially drinking.
Right.
And your competitor or your potential partner shows up and they're 8 shots deep, half an hour in. I know that there's other issues.
Yeah.
Right? Like, are they really willing to do what it takes? The moment you have to sacrifice and bail on your family, whatever's important to you in your life, whatever that is, the moment you have to forego that to work, your decision tells me a lot about whether you're going to be successful or not. Because most people will find a reason not to do the work.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, it's my
I'd say the same thing in comedy too. Like a lot, it's about doing the work. It's about getting up every day and writing and there. If you're willing to outwork everybody and write every day, day after day, to get on stage over and over and over, to do research, If you're just writing down funny things you hear or say, then you're not writing. You're not doing that.
Yeah.
Just
in the limited interaction with you, and I didn't research it prior to this. I do that on purpose so that way it's organic.
Yeah, same here.
But I would put money behind you because you've got work ethic. I can tell you're intelligent. You're methodical. You think about things. You've committed to something. You've done it for 20 years. I know you're successful. I don't know what level of success, but I'm attracted to those things. So one of the greatest successes that we have is we find people that exhibit those behaviors, and then we try to tie ourselves to them, right? And we're not greedy. I don't need 100%. I just want a piece. Remember earlier I said I'd take 1,000 people paying me $17 a week.
Yeah.
I just want a piece, right? Like, I just want a piece. So how do I get a piece? Well, the only way I get a piece with you, because you're the talent, is I got to solve some of your problems. And you've already exhibited that there are things in your daily life or in your career that you don't like to deal with. Those are the things that I got to help solve. And if I can solve those, I get something in exchange for that, right?
Right. Of course.
And that to me is this capitalism in effect, but, or barter system or whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
I just need, I've got to provide a solution to you, or there's no sense in you giving me any of your money, right?
Of course.
And part of that might be business solutions, and there might be things that I can bring to the table. You're the talent, but I might be able to bring something through my connections that lands you a 7-figure deal, right? And I think, too, you're going to have this happen. Like this, you said you're potentially landing this writing role. That probably is going to be very lucrative.
It's like you said, all this other gigs where it's like I'm driving to go do a show on a rooftop or whatever it is, just to keep generating this stuff. Then TV money is stupid.
Yeah.
But also I think you need to, especially at your level, find better ways to promote yourself, do bigger gigs,
that's
get better deals.
The promoting thing is that it's like there's something about it in my gut that just makes me feel icky. You know what I mean? It's that
you need somebody else to be a mouthpiece.
We need somebody that does it for you.
Yes.
You need a manager, like
that
a
fake kind of like, come see me, blah blah blah.
But you probably need a manager. You probably need a manager in LA or in New York
Yeah.
one of the big markets that can get
Managers,
you.
You need one
these
that is actually
managers,
gonna work,
most
though.
managers don't. They help you. They don't help you. They
I keep hearing this
Or
in
an
entertainment.
agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They once you're at a certain level, then they can do but they're not
Yeah.
reaching down and
Yeah.
grabbing people and being like,
Yeah.
they're like, this is what you need to do. You need to dress better.
What?
What?
That's I don't care what the hell you dress like, but
You need to dress more like an
That's hilarious.
A-list celebrity. Like, really? It's not the jokes. It's not
Yeah.
fucking finding.
That's not the right manager.
yeah, I agree. That's the wrong manager. For us, the only way we get paid typically, unless you're paying us as a consultant to come in and try and help solve your company's problems,
Right.
but really at the end of the day, we're getting paid to solve problems, or we're making money when you get paid. Like if you and I, if we entered into some deal together, right? I'm going to spend money, no matter what, blindly. I'm going to literally spend money to try and make money together. The only way I see a return is if you're successful.
Right.
I love deals like that.
I do. That seems like the perfect deal.
No,
Like,
it is. Like,
you don't get paid unless I get paid.
100%.
Anything I make from now over this, you get a chunk up. Like,
Yeah.
that's the dream gig.
that's
you know what I'm saying?
that's how we can sign deals till we're blue in the face. Now we just got to get really picky about who we work with because we only have so much time, right?
Right.
I love a deal like that. Some people think we give too much. Again, we're not greedy. I just want peace. Can we help people be successful? And again, underneath us, if I've got a strong employee, we've got strong people, they've been phenomenal, and they express a need to start their own thing, why would we not partner with them?
Right. Well,
Why, if I have an opportunity, why would I not partner with them? Because I still get to benefit from their management, their labor, so why would I not help them be successful, right? So it's just a different mentality.
That's just a terrible idea.
Yeah, well then,
Yeah.
right.
and now
There's always
sometimes, yeah, we've had people that have ideas we disagree with, and we say something like,
No.
we're not
Right.
interested.
Or we've done it before and it didn't work out so
Yeah.
well.
And sometimes that happens, you got,
What about when you guys butt heads? Then do you invest on your own in it as from your business side, or have you guys been partners for a really long time, or it's what brought you guys together?
We've done business together for a long time.
yeah.
Probably over a decade.
Yeah.
What was the first time when you guys met? Like, what business were you in?
Well, we met through a mutual friend.
Who's
and-
also a partner, yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I had different businesses back then, and he was. I had some retail companies, and he had an insurance company and some other stuff.
Had insurance, real estate, some small real estate stuff, and
And we didn't really do business
ATMs.
together then. We just kind of we just became friends, and we'd bounce ideas off of each other.
Yeah. So now though, let's say we have a disagreement, which and let me tell you, you want partners you disagree with. I'm just gonna be straight with you.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want. I do not want employees or partners that just blindly agree with everything I say. That's
No,
a
yes,
terrible,
There's no-
terrible idea.
No constructive.
Yeah, it's like
criticism.
only having friends that are Democrats or only having friends that are Republicans. It's a terrible idea because it creates this vacuum, and you're only getting information from people that believe a certain way that you do,
It's
and
an
it's
echo
terrible.
chamber.
It's an echo chamber, and it's a terrible idea.
Right.
I want to hear different opinions. Him and I sometimes have vastly different opinions about how to solve a problem. We talk about it, literally, like we're doing right here. I let him speak. He lets me speak. Like we try to, and sometimes we make concessions. And like for me, I don't want to win every deal, right? I don't want it to always be and I'm not sure. So I'll say, you know what? Let's try it. Let's try your way.
Most issues are very complex
Yeah.
because people are complex, business is complex,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of different ways to look at a problem, and there's often a lot of different ways to solve a problem. So, I may have an idea, then I'll tell him, and he's like, I don't know about that idea. How about this? How about we
Yeah.
look at it this way? I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't look at it that way, and then that makes me think about looking at it this way.
Yeah.
So the conversation is what creates the solution.
Have you guys had any where you're both like, this can't fail, both of you, and then it fails?
I mean, we've never had any like serious disagreements. I mean, if
You
No,
talking
I mean
about
you're
the
both
business,
in
even the
agreement.
business failed.
You're both in agreement. Like this is it. This can't fail, and then
No,
it does.
I think the if him and I would have started together as teenagers, we probably would have had that.
yeah,
Right.
I think that
we're past a lot of that
yeah.
now.
So it'd be like your son. What's MLB? What's the best batters in the MLB? What are they batting average? 350, 400? What is it?
That 400 hasn't happened since
So that
like
means-
the 60s. But yes, it's
So-
somebody batting like now. They should all be batting at his level.
300.
The guys that are going to make it should be batting 550, 600. It's their facing.
At his level. At his level.
Yes. Yeah.
So how many times are they Is it simple math? They're missing 40% of the time. Is that
Mostly a good hitter bats about 300, 320.
okay? So think
So,
about
yeah.
that. That means they're no matter what. You're telling me that,
They fail. That's the sport I think you fail the most in.
right? That's how I look at business. That's how we look at. Everybody views failure as this terrible thing. It's not. It's part of it. It's like it's an operating thing for me. Like you're not going to win every deal, just like I'm not going to make every shot, just like I'm not going to hit every baseball.
Almost every joke I write fails.
Yeah.
On stage.
And that's so.
And
if
then
you,
1 out of 20.
yeah. So do your business that stuff, which means you can't get too excited about like we've been doing this a while. I don't have the level of excitement like, oh, this can't fail. I was a business person as a teenager. A lot of that was then. As we've aged, I'd say especially in my 30s.
We don't get that excited about.
No, man, it's
business
just
deals.
it's like me
Because you
going
know
up-
if you follow these steps and you work
Exactly.
hard at it, it's going to be successful.
listen.
And we
when-
also know there's things that you can't control.
Yeah.
Like there may be an opportunity that seems perfect, seems great.
yeah,
And then you invest in that opportunity, you put a lot of time and effort into it, and then something unexpected happens and destroys that opportunity.
yeah,
That's why I don't get excited about it until it actually happens.
That's how I'm about. That's how I'm about show business. Like,
Yeah.
if I got excited every time I thought this show that's going to potentially be on was going to be on, it's been almost 2.5 years
Yeah.
of like, oh, we're doing this, we're doing that. So
Yep.
even now, when she's like, get me the lawyer's number so we can to get the people to do it. Until I see a paycheck.
yeah,
Or I see I'm on the set. I'm not even when I was on the set for the pilot. Right, it was weird because I sort of was stepped back. I wasn't connected to the success of this thing or not. Like
Yeah.
somehow I didn't care.
right,
I just wanted to have fun and do it, and I could see the pressure of all around me of all the different people associated with the show
Yeah.
and how much they had tied into its success
yeah,
of what it was going to be for them later.
There's
you know?
something that happens-
and I just didn't have that. But it was
That's a good
interesting
thing,
to
though.
watch
Yeah.
it in the other
Yeah, it's really
people,
good.
and so obviously I would like it because it would alleviate the money issue coming for me, especially
Yeah.
stand up because I don't know where that's going. It's always sort of taken care of itself for 20 years. It's like
Yeah.
I just keep. My mentality is if I just get great at it, then I'll get work.
Well,
And
momentum's
things will
important.
take care of itself,
Yeah.
and somehow it has for
Yeah.
all these years. So, I just try not to get excited and tied to it's happening and put
No, man. Well,
that in it because it almost
and
never
when it
does.
When it does happen, and you're intelligent enough, you probably know this, but I wouldn't change a thing in your life when
I'm
it
not
happens.
gonna.
I wouldn't change a thing. Everybody gets successful, they change their life, and so what they don't understand is everything dips, it ebbs and flows, everything. Right? It's not always sunshine outside, period. I don't care if you're Jeff Bezos, it does not matter. Your life changes. I don't know how much, when he lose $100 billion during his divorce, that was still, I know he's got
30
lots
billion
of,
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was detrimental to him. But I'm just saying the sun is not always shining. You need to be prepared for that. What you need once you start to get successful is consistency.
Yeah.
So when you get your first check, be thankful. I'm thankful every day. I'm thankful every week. Consistency allows me to make different decisions, right?
Right.
But I'm also well aware, anytime one thing pays me and it's a lion's share of my income, I'm very skeptical of that thing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm well aware that one thing, because when one thing pays you so much, you lose that one thing, it's detrimental to you.
Yeah.
That's why I love all the little stuff.
That's how my wife is in her sales. It's like you can go after the big whales, which pay a lot, but then
Yeah.
you lose that whale, you're done.
You're done.
If you have,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you said,
It's
a
an
bunch of
imbalance.
these other things in the thing,
Yeah.
then you don't get, this gig falls through, whatever.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
cool, I got this one. You know?
And
You're
also-
probably the same way with shooting movies. Like most of them don't get made.
Oh my God.
But you have 10 in the fire, then you end up getting at least one gig out of those.
What you guys are talking about hits home to me because I've been working at filmmaking for over 20 years, 25 years or something like that. And the thing you want happened this year for me. You want to make a movie and it get taken. I can't really talk too much more about it because I'm not supposed to. But
Right.
the best thing happened. But I'm still living my life like I was. I'm not celebrating or anything like that because it could still
Yeah.
fall apart.
Right,
And
right.
I realized that.
Every step
and
still
I've
is-
had so many, like I've gotten calls from Hollywood, like when I was really young about stuff, and I was like, woo, and then it just fell through just immediately. You know, so
And
I've
you've
been
told
through
a bunch
that.
of people, you know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Oh yeah, you call people
Yeah.
up, you talking, and
And
all
over
that
the
kind of
years,
shit.
you've learned to not even, you don't say shit. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
can get,
That's it, man.
they can tell you they mailed you the check, we're signing tomorrow, and you're like, I don't care.
I don't
Yeah.
fucking trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, you can, if you get too excited about something before it happens, when it doesn't happen, you're very disappointed. It messes up your demeanor. So
Yeah.
that'll mess up your momentum
I
in
agree.
all areas of your work too, because then you're depressed, you're discouraged, you're not focused on what you should be focused on. And from an entertainment perspective, you know, in acting, when we do auditions as actors, like if I do an audition, I completely forget about it. If I did an audition today, tomorrow I wouldn't even be thinking about it. And next
Yeah.
week I
What
would
if
forget
you,
what it was
but
about.
you wouldn't be thinking about, like, not that you didn't get the job or not, but you wouldn't be thinking about, like, oh, if I'd have prepared a little bit better, I would have had, you know what I mean? Like that kind of, or
Oh
I
yeah,
did
if
that-
I'm not prepared for an audition like I should be, then I may be upset at myself after, like right afterwards. But once it's submitted, I just let it go.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm usually prepared for auditions, but yeah, especially now. I mean, I work on them, but I'll do my best work, and then I'll send it off, and I forget about it because there's no reason to think about it, because it's honestly the odds are against you getting it anyway. And if you do get it, then it's like a gift. What I focus on is the ability to do the work. You know, even like you know, I'm new to comedy, to stand up, but I enjoy going to the open mics and doing the work. It's fun, even if I eat shit the whole time. At least I'm learning something, you know,
Right.
and I'm enjoying the work and the performance aspect of it, the writing, you know, developing a new art form, sort of. It's still related to acting and writing, but
Right.
it's still a different thing. You know, it's a new
especially
craft.
now, like in the form that, like, I've seen where I've seen you doing it, where I'm doing it with you at Idiot Box, and going there and having masks on and literally not performing to a crowd, but to 7 more of us, just
Yeah.
guys working there. There's not really a worse audience to really do comedy on.
Yeah, which I feel like is good for me.
Yeah, that format. I'd be interested how you feel about that. Like the way we're doing that, it feels almost like it would be more productive if we just sat there and talked as comics, and like, here's the chunk I'm working on, sort of tell it, and then we sort of pitch around like, oh, what about this or this or that?
That's cool. Yeah, that would be
that
helpful.
made me think of this, as opposed to each of us just going up and doing that awkward performance of.
Make it more of a workshop, huh?
Yeah, because like now, like when we go Thursday, we're probably both either going to be working on totally new stuff that we haven't told yet,
Right.
or the stuff that we worked on over the last couple weeks that's getting better. And then by now it'll be the 3rd week in a row that we've all seen each other tell those jokes, so it doesn't matter. Now there's no surprise, there's no laughter,
Right.
there's no like, oh yeah, that's a good one, I forgot about that. Oh, you didn't do it the way you did it last time. But there's no,
Yeah.
it's hard to grow. you
Yeah,
know?
for me that's harder. So for you, you're experienced in that art, in that craft is really developed. So you know, like you have I'm sure that you have a gauge when you go through a bit, and your timing and stuff. You know if it's funny or not.
Yes.
Whereas for me, I'm not completely sure about it. I think like what's funny to me, like I think that's funny. Or maybe it sounds a little off. Like I'm not, like maybe it's not, I realize it's not quite right, but I'm not sure where the mistake's at or where the problem is, because I haven't been doing it long enough. I don't know the art form enough or well enough. So that's where the regular audience would be helpful for me, because I've done some open mics and put up some material that didn't do very well. Bombed pretty bad, but then came back and there was a regular audience there. You know, I remember one new bit that I written, or one bit that I wrote last year, and I thought it was funny. And my stuff is observational, so maybe it's not funny to everybody because it's real topic based. And I did an open mic. It bombed pretty bad. I rewrote some of it because maybe I thought, well, maybe they're misunderstanding what I'm saying,
Right.
and cut some extra out of it. Went back to another open mic. It was on a Friday night at the Idiot Box. For some reason, a lot of the crowd stayed, which was awesome. So there was a full room, and most of the people there were just regular audience members, not comics.
Right.
And I
It was
did
a different time.
Yeah, and I did the material. Yeah, and it went really well. It did very good, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, this helps a lot. Like, this is really helpful because I'm getting feedback from all these regular people that are
Right.
enjoying this. And I've had that happen a couple times, but I haven't been doing it long enough to gauge my own work. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure.
Well, the work you did when it didn't work in front of comics or whatever, and then when you went back and there was a crowd and you made it work, it worked better.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah.
Because you did some of that. You did some of that initial sort of work
Oh, okay.
of doing it. You heard it in your head. Sometimes you look down at, like, I'll go up with a set list and I'll look down at the joke and be like, 20 minutes ago that sounded like a joke in my head, like that would work. And somehow looking at it on the page in front of a crowd, I can look at it and be like, there's no joke there.
Yeah, I did the same thing the other night. I tried something new, and when I had thought about it earlier, it was funny.
Right.
I actually laughed about it, and I was like, that's pretty funny. I'm going to say that tonight. And then I was saying it in front of the crowd. I was like, oh, this is not a joke. This is just kind of a funny topic.
Right. Or
But then
it
I was
made your
able to-
mind it made your mind have that spark in it, like, oh, that's
Yeah.
funny to me, or that flip in the wording, something about that juxtaposition. It's, the funny's there somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when I said it the other night, I was like, okay, well, I know why this was. I was like, this is funny to me, but why is it funny? There's got to be a tag or something. And I did throw something out there, and it worked, and people laughed. I got some laughs.
Right.
Not huge laughs, but I was like, at least I didn't completely eat shit in that moment. It didn't waste that 10 seconds or 15 seconds. But yeah. But that was good for me. To me, that was like a win because that was sort of in the moment, not stuck in my head, not on the script. I
Right.
didn't even write it down. It was just something just completely new. And I
Did
got
you
a
write
little
it down
laugh.
when you got off stage?
I recorded it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I will write it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it'll make it into the set because I don't know if it was that funny, but there may be something
It's
there.
weird how much you don't throw anything away, like you were talking about, like, because like you'll have a line now that maybe doesn't work, and then in a year you'll write another line, and then that line does work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or do you ever have things that you have that are sort of funny, and then they come up in real life, and then you kind of have that sort of train of thought that you can throw into that conversation or that story, and it works specifically in that moment because it is about that topic, you
Yeah.
know? And that happens all the time in comedy too. Like, you have a joke that doesn't really work, and then somehow it comes up in the moment in that real thing, and it kills like one of the best jokes you've ever written, and then you're like, oh, that joke is funny. That's how I tell it. Right? And then sometimes it does work again, like when you tell, but then maybe the next time you're like, that joke does work, and then you tell it again in the next situation, and it goes right back to sucking
I've had that
balls. You know
happen,
what I'm
yeah.
saying? And you're like, what? And it's because it was in that moment. So you end up with enough of those that they end up carrying you through shows sometimes. After 10 years or so, you can be like, you have 3 or 4 of those that happen sort of every show, or you write a new joke and then that line, oh, that's where that fits.
Yeah.
And then that becomes 2 or 3 lines. And then to me, that's what I love so much about this thing, is like jokes you've given up on or that you've even totally forgot of an idea, and then they just come back and then they fit with the new thing. Or you're like, oh, I was saying that wrong. I was doing the punchline first and the setup second. You just realize it was just flipping 3 words, and it's just I just love that stuff.
I'm learning some of that now. Like I'm going back through my bits, and I'll be like, oh, well, this actually would be better if it came before this, or this actually is a tag for this other piece.
Yeah, or a weaker joke is made stronger because you put it with another
Right. Yeah.
joke that was better. So it's like you have 2 sort of C+ jokes, and then you write another joke that's maybe, and somehow together they all crank up to
Yeah.
a B+ joke,
Yeah.
just because of what they're around. You know, that's what makes guys that do one-liners, like we were saying about Mitch, or so amazing to me, because you can't have every joke can't be kablam, 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 kablam. There has to be some natural flow to the
Yeah.
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
the
I've got-
show, and then you have to figure out.
People get desensitized to that humor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to figure out how to set those lower moments in so that they make that high moment seem higher. And,
Yeah, I've got a couple where it's actually worked where I have like a little lull. You know, I purposely say something I know is not going to be funny, and then it's got a tag right behind it that seems
savor.
funnier than it is because of the little dip there.
Yes. Yes.
You know.
I used to do that all the time. Write the savor to the joke.
Yeah,
My buddy Kostaki would be like, "Why don't you just write a better joke? You always have the savor ready."
it just seems fun though to have that.
Yes.
Maybe it's the way you create that pause. You're almost controlling the audience's behavior in that moment, I think.
Yeah. Once the joke's done, you sort of know how to
Yeah.
do it. But until then, it's like, shit, that didn't work. That did, and you got to go back and edit it out. And,
So
Or
treat,
if the after part doesn't work, then it's just really bad.
yeah.
so treat the way you describe comedy, the way you talk about comedy. If comedy is your business, all those temporary failures taught you, and now you've been doing it. You said, in about 10 years, you come up with all these things that are common. The way you speak about comedy is how I feel about business, because I've been doing it long enough that some of the same things are always prevalent, and some of the same pitfalls are always there, and you got to work through things, right? And like I've had enough failures happen to where when I see somebody, right, like you said, hey, can you read people? Well, 100% I can. In this.
Right. Like now I can walk in and read an audience and be
Hey.
like, okay, do the
Yeah.
kid stuff tonight.
Yeah, I mean, like literally. So if I was to get on stage, which I do want to do this, just because he's been talking about, we've had some comedians on. I'm like, you know what? I'm a fat, funny guy sometimes, I think. So I'm gonna go bomb on stage and eat shit for, like he talks about, for 15 minutes. I'd love to do that, 5 minutes, whatever it is. So I'm gonna do it just to do it, right? But you're immediately going to be able to, because of your experience, you're going to be able to see me on there for 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and in that limited interaction, you're going to be able to say, you're going to be able to give me all this feedback I'd never know myself. If I was going to do it as a career, you'd be able to say, well, these are all the things you need to work on. You're going to give me a different plan, and if I can spend half an hour with you, and then
Yes.
check back in with you in some type of mentor-mentee relationship over a period of time, my trajectory of success is going to be greatly affected by having you on my team, right?
Yep.
Yes.
That's what we bring to other people and other
Okay.
businesses.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yes.
Right.
I had a lady pay me one time to help her write a comedy and a speech or teach her how to be funny. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
And then once I sat down with her, I realized, stuff I just take for granted.
Yeah.
Punchline be the last word.
Yeah.
This goes with this. This goes with
right.
that seems so ingrained in me that I figure it's ingrained in other people. And that's
It's
what
not.
you're saying with your business.
Exactly.
Like you show up, you're like, these are the obvious things. And I didn't even think of that. And-
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm getting at is like, so maybe I can't guarantee somebody can be successful, but I can guarantee that people that work really hard and refuse to give up are more likely to be successful. Your son showing up and doing the work has a much better chance of getting the MLB than if he does not do the work.
Of course. Yes.
Right? And it seems like common sense stuff, right? If you show up, if I showed up with you and every week I got constructive criticism and I took that and I worked on it, I would perfect the craft. Maybe I wouldn't become the world's best comedian, but I'm going to be a better comedian than I would have been. And whatever trajectory, wherever I'm going to end up, I'm going to get there much faster and in a much safer. I'm going to have less of the ups and downs. I always have ups and downs, but I'm going to have
Right.
less of those. My downs are going to be mitigated
You
because
can
I've
spend
got
less time taking a wrong path.
Exactly, right? Like, and that's what we can bring in the business world because we've got some of that experience. And so it's like, there's like, oh, you're a business person. Well, what that really means is what? Well, I understand tax mitigation. I understand corporate hierarchical systems. I understand standard operating procedures or SOPs. I understand that we need to automate things. Like, I understand a lot of these little things.
I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah. But, I mean, just whatever the thing is, like whatever your problem is, I'm good at solving problems. I'm attracted to problems. I like to solve them, right? That's how I bring value.
Like
Right.
Vanilla Ice?
Yeah. Yeah, but if I came to you, what do you
Exactly
really
like Vanilla Ice.
Exactly like Vanilla Ice.
Give me a problem. Yo, I'll solve it.
Yeah. Check out the beat. Well, my DJ revolves it.
Yeah.
Revolves it, yeah.
So, but what would you do for me if I came in and you're going to be a problem solver for me. You're going to help provide preventative guidance so that it solves future problems before they happen.
Right.
And that's what we do, right, for our own businesses, for other people's businesses, right? There's nothing inherently evil about that, right?
So how do you, like, let's say you go into consult on a business that you just don't give a fuck about, you know what I mean? But do you care enough about your business as a consultant to care about it, or do you go like, no, I'm just going to go, I only want to work with people about things I care about?
I've got a slight curse. We were at an event considering a business with two potential partners, and the long-term boyfriend, fiance, came in and he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be buying this car. And I spoke up and I said, well, what do you, and I was inquisitive, well, what are you buying? You know, what are you looking at? And he's like, this and this and this. I'm like, well, I actually have some experience in the car business and this and this and this. I start rattling things off. Now listen, I don't know this man. I've never met him prior to that day. And he's telling me about a problem. His problem is he's owned the same car for like 15 years. He's unfamiliar with the buying process, and he's going to go buy a vehicle. And I'm volunteering to help him buy a vehicle. Now, listen, that's not what I get paid to do, right? But I like problems like cokeheads like Coke, right? Like, I see a problem, I can help him solve it. That's what I like to do. That's the thing. So, like, really, you could tell me that your issue is that you're not entirely sure how to you want to make better socks. You know, like, I'm not interested in socks in general, but the moment you ask for my help or imply that you need it, and I see some way for me to, if I can solve the problem in a way that makes us both money, I'm into it. Whether I'm into the, like, you want to.
You don't care about socks, but you care about the business.
I don't care about the widget, the whatever. We're either providing a product or a service, period.
Businesses work pretty much the same way, no matter what the business is.
If you're selling sex or kids' toys, right?
Let's not put those together.
Or tobacco.
I'm selling kids' sex toys. You got
kids'
anything?
sex toys, yeah. But I mean,
it's a very growing market.
Probably not a good business.
I'm just saying, you can pick things that are total opposites, and at their fundamental base, the business concepts are gonna operate the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Regardless of the widget that we're selling or the service that we're providing.
Or whatever expertise is needed, you find the people that can do those things.
Right.
Like if you're building rockets, you need rocket scientists.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, if you own a law firm, you need to have lawyers.
Right.
Doesn't mean you have to practice law yourself.
Yeah. Well, and like for you, like you're the talent. You can be an amazing comedian. Does that mean that you're also going to be the best publicist? No. Does that mean you're going to be the best manager? No.
That's how I feel. Like, it's like, I feel like I've always, people are like, you got to do this and social media and this and this and that. And it's like, if I want to get my car fixed, I'm going to take it to someone who knows how to fix their car.
Yeah.
If I'm producing my own video, why would I not get it somebody that knows how to
100%.
edit? I'm going to go ahead and do a half-assed version of all these other things that then make my comedy look half-assed.
Exactly. You're
You know what I
exactly
mean?
right.
To me, it's like watching a magician that has worked on his craft for 20 years and these things in his basement fucking juggling, and then he starts, I'm going to add jokes to this. And then he uses jokes from a book or something. And then they don't understand that they've just devalued the thing that they put 20 years into working on.
That's right.
By spending 3 seconds on the fucking joke part.
I agree with you.
You've made, now you've made your thing that you're great at look like shit.
You're exactly right. And that is it in a nutshell. Literally, why would you try? So you're spending your life getting excellent at being a comedian, right?
Right.
Why? It would be ignorant of me that I spend my life being, let's say that I'm a producer, right? Or I'm doing clips, I'm editing videos, and I do that for 20 years. So I'm going to edit videos, right? Now all of a sudden I'm going to be the comedian. I'm going to edit my own videos, right? All the time I spend wasting trying to be a comedian, I'm not going to be as effective. I don't have the 20 years in. I don't have the time. And now it's irrelevant how good of a producer or an editor I am. I suck so bad at being a comedian that they don't care that I can edit the videos well, right?
It's well-edited shit.
It's just well-edited shit. Like, it's like, it just doesn't make any sense, right? But for me, it's like, it's a series of getting the right people in the right, and I need a janitor just like I need a CEO. Literally, everyone in our society should have a place, right?
So you're a communist.
Yeah, some version of that, right? I think I'm...
They can choose their place.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, that's fine.
Well, no, they can choose their place 100%. Like, what I'm getting at is I value a janitor. I mean, I know ours personally. Rachel, she She owns her own business, and she's also in here doing the clean. But she's amazing, and she's got strong work ethic, right? And I know who she is. Like, I'm very respectful of what she does and the service she brings, and it's needed. I also value.
She's a portable UVC light.
Hey.
Oh, there you go.
But it's just like every position is important, and I think a lot of small businesses that do call on our help, it's because they're trying to wear too many hats. For one, two, they're not interested in the business. Maybe they've inherited it. Maybe it's the family business. Maybe they grew up working in this business and they bought it from their parent because it's all they know. I mean, whatever the situation is, right? Maybe nepotism is running rampant in their business and they're unjustly rewarding all their family members, their kids, right? And the business is really a good business, but it can't support all these people that aren't contributing to it. Like, you just got to figure out what the problem is, and sometimes it's just obvious. Like, maybe you're not a business person, but I guarantee you some of these problems you could, as a layperson, as far as business concerned, you'd be like, well, why are you doing that? It makes no sense.
Right.
Why is your wife on a six-figure salary? What does she do?
What does my wife do?
No. I'm saying, if I'm looking at a business owner and he's paying his wife six figures, and his son's got a six-figure salary, and his daughter's got a six-figure salary, and he can't figure out why he can't pay his bills and why he can't grow his business,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
This is common.
Seems like his wife and son should chip in on the bills.
Yeah, and this is the problem. It's a common thing, right? Like, you'd be surprised to see how many people are just mismanaging, and
Their own money.
Yeah, people feel entitled. Just because you make something today doesn't mean you can make it tomorrow. If the metrics change, they change. Like
we were talking about the plane business, the airline business.
100%.
Yeah.
Or Blockbuster.
And everybody wants a guarantee, but they're not willing to guarantee themselves anything. But they want somebody else to guarantee everything for them. And it's like, it just doesn't work that way. And
Right.
I think the number one mistake people make in business is they don't take corrective action. They just ride it in the ground. Like, there's a problem, they just choose to ignore it until they lose everything.
That's sort of how I'm starting to feel about stand-up, to be honest. Like, we're all hanging out. Okay, should we start doing Zoom shows? Comedy's going to come back.
I think
It might
will
not.
come back.
It will come back for. It's going to come back for.
I miss it.
Yeah, it's going to come back for the Chappelles and the people that people know. Like, you're talking about Paul at the Comedy Zone. He's got. Now he's got Brian Regan and Earthquake coming in. Those guys would never go into that club in the last 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
But now that's the business has changed. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, once, we've had pandemics all throughout humanity. It's not a new thing. There will be a vaccine for it, and in the future there'll be quicker vaccines for these types of issues. We'll get past this. This isn't going to be like destroy society, all
No.
entertainment's dead. I think it'll actually create more opportunities, especially in film. A lot of the indie filmmakers and stuff are doing better now. Because,
yeah, I figure as much.
Hollywood's
Like,
holding back, so we got to go for it.
Yeah, so they have some more opportunities.
You guys, like, while they're sitting on their asses worrying about lawsuits, you guys
Yeah.
are like, fuck it, let's go make some movies.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
you put out product, and then people find that
Yeah.
product, right?
And I think there'll be more demand for comedy. I think people will be tired of staying home all the time.
Yeah.
They'll want to go to more shows. I think you'll actually see stand-up shows do better. I think the
I hope
audiences
so.
will be bigger.
Listen,
I hope
there's
so. I hope so. Like I have so much more faith in comedy than in stand-up comedy than I really think is real. Like, I've always, like, my goal in stand-up, it's like I remember as a young comic being like, you could change the world with stand-up, because to me it did in mine. You know what I mean? Those were the guys that spoke the truth and to power and held up the mirror about who we are as people, and it felt like the most honest people in the world to me were comedians when I was coming up.
Yeah.
Well, I think comedy is
And
so
so-
important because it also makes fun of society.
Yeah.
It makes us not take ourselves so seriously,
Yeah.
and also shows the flaws in society.
I think it's therapeutic, though, as a person that enjoys
That too,
comedy.
yeah.
I think it's therapeutic as hell. So I was in Paul's spot at, I don't know if I should say, I don't get him in trouble, but he didn't know how old I was, but I was in his comedy clubs and stuff as an early teen. And, it was a good avenue for me, like something that was positive,
Right.
right? Because there's a lot of other things I could have been doing at that time, and it was nice to hear people laugh, and it's therapeutic, and it helps teach you to process things. I started using joking as like sometimes a coping mechanism. I've used it in business. I use it in networking and in people. Like, it's
Right.
Right, it
That's
was
why that's why there's so much over the years people make money teaching comedy classes to people that don't even want to be comics, just
Right.
because it helps all through life in any business. You're making people laugh. They're more comfortable.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
Bring down let the wall down, let the barrier down, whatever. So like, I'm a huge fan, but I'll tell you, there are a lot of people that if you did a comedy show tonight and we could legally do it, you'd pack the room. I know. Listen, there's 1,500 people at Walmart right now at this very second, I assure you, in Greensboro. You don't think they'd show up to go watch comedy?
They haven't for 10 years.
Oh, man, I would.
As comedy has sort of
I'd
gone
show
down
up.
and down and down, like the comedy clubs have started to close, because it used to be people came to see comedy because they just knew it would be
Right,
funny.
right.
And slowly it started to be like, it's only people they know, or now it's people they know from YouTube or television. You know what I mean? It used to be like you could go to the club and just know it's going to be a great show regardless.
Right.
Oh, okay.
You know?
And see,
And now it's not, you know, and now they don't know the person, so that there's maybe the clubs were giving away seats just to get people in to sell the drinks. you
Right.
know? Paul had a weird thing going on here where it's like this city is in the midst of where it's like a destination place where a lot of little cities around here come here as their night out, and
a lot of people don't like Paul, but I'll tell you this.
and he charged and he got him to pay, and
He's a good business person.
Yes.
I mean, he makes good business sense, and he understands the metrics. He is not a comedian, and I get that, and I hear a lot of whatever about him. But I'll tell you, he's resilient. He's been through a lot of stuff,
Yep.
good and bad. And there are a lot of times people say this business doesn't work, and then we prove that it does.
Yes, I think same thing with stand-up. It's always been like, it used to be really easy. All they
Yeah.
had to do was have an open door,
Yeah.
and people would come in, and then it became the people that were working hard to get people in stayed in business, and
Yeah.
those other people sort of drifted off, and then sort of corporate comedy sort of came and bought up,
Yeah.
put in the big venues, and they'd bring in the guys that would sell 400 seats,
Yep. Yep.
you know, tickets, and so that sort of squashed
Yeah.
just the regular Joe comics.
I
But
can't wait to see what happens.
I'm interested too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you're right. I mean, I love stand-up. I think there's
Man.
nothing better in the world. And you can't, even watching your favorite comic on a big television,
Yeah.
It's not the same.
the four of us sitting here are going to laugh. But if we're at the show watching that same guy,
We're rolling.
We're going to be smacking this table.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Something about the liveness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to it. We had Rogan booked, and it's been months ago now, but it got canceled, and then it got rescheduled, and then it got canceled again, and I think they're just refunding the tickets, aren't they?
Yeah.
But, you know, I was looking for – but, I mean, literally – and, again, though, this comes down to a mouthpiece. Like, let's say that our business is comedy, and we're going to open up a comedy club in Kernersville. Don't we got to create our own customer base, right? So we got to figure out, we have to advertise and market, and we have to generate buzz.
Right.
And we have to figure out who we're marketing to and who are the people that like comedy. Like, you need to figure out and do some research and then spend some money making sure that those people understand that you're going to be there. And then you shouldn't just open the door and expect people to show up. There's a lot of stuff that should go and take place in advance of that.
Right.
So that way you have the Planet Fitness effect. And I'm just using them as a good business model from the one aspect. They will sell thousands, tens of thousands of gym memberships to people that will never go to the gym again, sign them up onto a recurring monthly payment before they ever open the gym. And there's businesses all over the country, there's gyms all over the country that are going under that can't stay open, but they've figured out how to do it, right? So, like, it's like, what way are we solving the problem? Like, we come in and you're saying, hey, there's not people coming into the shows. That could be because comedy is dying or someone's not solving the problem appropriately.
Right. I think it's more of that.
I feel like stand-up's pretty strong right now. I mean, all the Netflix specials and I feel like in podcasts, I feel like comedy is
Man, I do
strong.
too.
I think
Maybe.
I
I'm
love
just,
comedy,
maybe I'm
man.
just cynical. I'm not really in show business, so I mean, I'm in comedy, but I'm not. I've always sort of avoided the chasing the show business thing, which is, you know,
I miss comedy.
smart or not. But I just like. I love. Yeah, there's nothing better.
Yeah, I miss it. I hate all the toxic crap. I really don't care if you're Democrat, Republican. I get it, and you have beliefs, and I respect you have beliefs, whatever they are. I'm so tired of hearing about it from it's just been whatever
It's
side
interesting
you're
you
on.
say that because for me in stand up, I've always felt like most comics weren't issue driven at all. It was just jokes.
Right.
And so I've always wanted to be like, I want to have something to say. I want
Yeah.
to talk about what I care about. I think that the big issue stuff is you can't talk about this. You can't talk about the three things. You can't talk about religion and politics and
Yeah.
whatever. That's what I dive in. I'm like, I'm doing this. And then it's weird. Over the last 5-6 years, it feels like now, like Facebook, everybody's just given their opinions on the world.
Yeah.
And now I just want jokes. Now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, now I don't want to do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
But when I
see-
sit down and look at my new set list, it's like I want to talk. It's like the police and
And I'm cool with that.
You know, or
in
whatever,
a joke.
whatever some of the big topics are. You know?
I'm cool with it in a joke. Like you could sit here and you could come up with all the anti-white jokes you've got, and if I thought they were funny, I'd laugh my ass off, right? And I'll respect it because we're in the environment. Like, don't go to a comedy club and get offended that you're
Right.
an idiot. Don't go to fucking comedy club
Right.
if that's how you are. I'd love to hear it. I'm fine with that. I guess what I'm talking about, I'm tired of hearing about all the politics. I'm just tired of all the hate and all the whatever and all
Right.
these polarizing views. I'm just over that, and I'm ready to be able to go sit with a group of 10 people or 500 and laugh
Right.
at the same person.
Yes.
You know, and irregardless of what he's talking about, right? Like, I can't wait for that.
But you're not going to go watch Bill Maher.
I'll go watch anybody.
Okay.
Like, literally, like, if Bill Cosby had an episode running right now and I could go watch it, I'd probably go watch it. And I don't understand the full negative connotation of what I'm saying, but, you know, that might be implied. But if he's a funny guy and he's got something funny to say and that's the only thing I could go watch at this point,
Yeah.
him and as an individual is less what I'm judging. It's him as what's the service he's providing.
You have to go watch Earthquake, and just if you go see 2 comics in the
Yeah.
next month or two,
Earthquake.
go to Paul's and go see Brian Regan,
Okay.
who
Brian Regan's funny.
he's been like every comic's favorite comic for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's my son's favorite. My son's gone and seen him twice live. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
he's just great. And so he's going to be there, and Earthquake is going to be there. And Earthquake, to me, is it's the guy I started
Yeah.
at his club, and I would just watch and just be like, wow,
Yeah, I need to go
we're not
check it
even
out.
in the same business. Like,
Yeah.
those are 2 of the best at this art
Yeah.
of the last 20 years.
Yeah,
And they're here, so you should go see them.
I need to go check them out. It's kind of like this. I don't know how you feel about prison reform and all this, but people think that, oh, this negative thing happened. It's like, and I don't know if it ties into cancel culture and all these other things, but this negative thing's happened and we want to ruin this person's life forever. But then when the person goes to prison, those same people are the same groups typically that say, what about rehabilitation? You know, the sentencing's too harsh. It's really interesting to me. Like, I agree crimes should be punished, but I also think that the criminal justice system is about reform, and there should be some level of punishment. And if you don't believe in the death penalty, then I don't understand why you believe in cruel and unusual punishment of locking somebody in a cage for 80 years either, and not giving them something to find purpose in their life, good, bad, or otherwise, right? If they're going to be kept alive, it needs to be in a humane way. Let's give them opportunities to do things, right? Like, I don't know,
To work for like $1 an hour? That's an
something.
opportunity,
Yeah,
right?
something. Well, I don't know that we need corporate America slave labor, you know.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Yeah,
we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, I don't
So-
think we need that, but should they be able to do something? Now,
They're learning the skill. They're getting that skill opportunity for free.
And
I
I
think what
think,
he's
uh,
saying is
I know.
having a way
Pay 'em.
to reform themselves.
yeah, and I think actually, if
Like
they're
a
working in
forgiveness program.
prison, I'm fine
But
with
they
them
don't.
getting
Why would they want them
minimum wage.
reformed? They want them to come back to prison
I
because they
don't.
want to make their money on.
No,
them.
I agree.
So they're
I
not
don't. That's
trying
true.
to reform.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. That's the problem. Is everybody wants to ruin everybody forever. I don't. Pay them minimum wage. If they're pay them whatever wage, right? Because guess what? Now, if there's restitution owed, you have a chance to get that money back.
Right.
Right? If you created some criminal act and you're able to earn money to pay it back, right? You're able to work. I mean, like, I get it. There's a lot of times people have been really, really, really offended about things. And sometimes I'm sitting here going, what would make you feel better? And like, man, if he just made an attempt to pay me back, I'd feel much better about it, right?
Right.
So provide an opportunity for that to happen. Like, I'm just saying sometimes I think the extremes of, like you're saying, hey, we want it to be a revolving door, the criminal justice system as a business, I don't like that. Like, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
How do you
interesting.
solve it? I have no idea.
It's interesting. I think in the early '70s, they were at the point where there was a movement. They were even considering ending prisons because of taking a different path towards rehabilitation
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Well, the drug war is the
instead-
biggest part
yeah,
of the problem.
instead they went
Yeah.
that way. They went the other way.
They went way the other way. Yeah.
There should be no drug addicts or drug users or anything.
In prison.
All drugs should be decriminalized, and some should be
It's
regulated.
interesting. I'd like my sister. I've debated her on that before, and she's big, and my sister's big in the rehab.
It should be all about health and wellness
in the business
and harm
of rehab,
reduction.
where she started basically as a coke whore addict, and then sort of started the rehab process and living in halfway houses, and now she's really respected and like runs
Oh, wow.
treatment centers and stuff, and she
Yeah.
went through being the therapist and
Yeah.
to now running.
And she thinks it should be illegal or legal.
Well, the research shows it would be a fraction of the cost.
She wishes they'd put more into rehab,
I agree.
obviously,
Yeah.
and that didn't have to fight the insurance companies for allowing them some of the things like
Yeah. I agree
even
with that.
something like urine testing, where they're like, you can only do 3 a month. Well, it's
not
a
enough.
crucial thing to know what they're doing, and
Yeah.
and I don't talk. I'm talking out of my ass here. I'm not an expert like she.
I like to do that too.
But I'd be interested to talk to her about whether legalization. I think she would rather try to keep some drugs out of people's hands, because that people are predisposed to the in
But
their
there's a
DNA.
difference between legalization and
Between-
decriminalization too.
Yes.
Somebody that's taking heroin should not be a criminal.
Right.
Like they should, if they're, you should really be able to put anything in your body you want to, as long as you're not affecting someone else. And
This comes back to, are you allowed to smoke or not? Can the government tell you to smoke cigarettes or not?
in Switzerland back in the 90s, they had a big problem with heroin addicts. So all their parks were full of like hundreds of heroin addicts in their parks. People were, overdosing every day. They had to have ambulances on site every day of the week. It was a huge epidemic, a big problem. And so they changed their criminal justice system. They instead of going from taking an enforcement perspective, they switched to a harm reduction procedure. And then they created these clinics where heroin addicts could actually go to the clinic, use the drugs they want to use, and even go to work afterwards, and then come back later and do it again. And they still do that today. Their crime drastically decreased. All those drugs were decriminalized, so they're not creating new felons, new
Right.
criminals. Because once those people get in the system, they just stay in that cycle.
Yes.
Because they can't get a job, they can't be productive, and it tremendously helped their society. And
Do you drug test at your businesses?
Most
No.
of our personal ones we don't.
no.
Now, I can't say we don't have clients.
I mean,
here.
if you had an employee that had an opiate addiction or something, they were constantly falling asleep or having
Yeah.
problems, you couldn't keep that person employed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Right.
So you would
Until
know.
it really starts to affect their business and your business, it's none of your business.
man, we've got
Right. Yeah.
either between companies we directly control or companies we consult for, 350 given employees that might be in some way underneath our management. We don't have that issue. We don't test, but we don't have that issue. Like, I mean, we don't have people showing up intoxicated. Like, it's
someone's
really
dysfunctional, they just won't be an employee.
yeah. I mean, if it comes like it's just not.
You either have functioning drug addicts or you don't have them.
And they're fine.
And I don't know what they are, but
Yeah.
I don't care. As long as they're
What is-
responsible and they're doing what they're supposed to do, I don't really care what they do in their personal time.
What is a person that steps outside 10 times a day during their work to smoke? Is that not a functioning drug addict?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I care that they smoke cigarettes, or they're doing what I'm hiring
Would
them
a
to
cigarette? But does nicotine? Nicotine doesn't make me?
do? Maybe.
I'm not maybe, but I think
If you're doing a
there
drug-
are drugs that sort of change your sort of
yeah,
level,
but
the
you
level of what you're willing to like
but you-
whether I'm willing to steal from you or not.
You can't
Well-
use drugs on the job, and you couldn't drink on the job either.
Yeah.
Right.
Alcohol is the most dangerous drug on the planet, and it's completely illegal.
Yeah.
But you can't do it while you're working.
Yeah, I don't dispute that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
You can if you're a comedian.
well,
Yeah.
it may mess up your comedy though, if it's too
Yeah.
much.
Well, I guess
Yes.
what you're saying is
I
we're
get
not
it.
condoning it. We're not saying go do it. We're not allowing it on the property. But at the same point, what you do in your own home, if you're smoking a cigarette on your break or you're outside doing a line of coke, right? I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to waste the energy I'm not going to condone it. I'm not going to suggest it.
But if you see that, you can see the change in their productivity or whatever.
That's
yeah,
a problem.
then we got
Yeah.
a problem. Like if it affects
Right.
your work, then we've got an issue, right?
Okay.
If it affects the agreement that you've made with us, we're agreeing to pay you $15 an hour to perform these duties, and you can no longer perform these duties because of something you've done, you're breaking the deal,
Right.
right? And I mean, and that's it at its mildest form. If you do something that it causes you to affect somebody else, we're not condoning it, but you go on your lunch break and you have alcohol, can't do that, right? But people do, and they come back to work and they get in a work vehicle and they drive and they kill somebody. I could be liable, right? So like I've got to protect myself.
That's what I mean. So drug testing at some point might be to help your liability.
Yeah, but
Like, you
I
don't-
don't.
But it shouldn't be an issue.
I don't give
because
breathalyzers-
drugs should be decriminalized, I think.
Yeah, but I don't
And-
give breathalyzers when people get back from lunch.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, like it's also like this. There's where does the responsibility of the employer stop and the responsibility of the employee start? Like it's very frustrating.
and the
for
rights
me.
of the employee.
Yeah.
Right. I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that. I
Yeah.
mean, I was just curious because I
No,
think
I-
a lot of businesses do. And
Listen, dude.
You
If
know?
you wanted to, if
but
I
if you owned
really-
an airline, you would drug test your pilots.
no, I probably wouldn't. Unless I would be liable. Unless a series of attorneys said that if we don't do this, then we're going to be liable for any issue. I wouldn't. If they show up prepared to work and able to do their job, I would probably argue that most airline pilots also are. I've seen a bunch of them. They drink a lot.
Right.
That's a problem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But guess what? They're not giving breathalyzers before they get on the planes.
And you're not hooking them up to sleep machines to make sure they're getting their 8 hours every
I mean,
night either, right?
I mean,
true.
if I'm just real careful to step on other people's rights. Like if you can function and you can show up and you do cocaine 3 times a day and that's your deal, but you show up and you function and you do all your stuff and you balance and
I don't suspect it.
yeah, I mean, like, who am I to say, like, what do you think caffeine is? Is that not a stimulant?
I feel like feel like as coffee, I'm going to work a little harder and pay more attention.
stimulant.
If I'm coked out, I'm probably going to steal from you.
I don't know. I know a lot of people that
I don't know why I have that. Maybe that's a prejudice because it's a drug I don't do or whatever.
A lot
but-
of people take, what is it, Ritalin?
Yeah.
Or the other one? Adderall.
Adderall.
But
That's-
they're really
that's-
productive people.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a good
take it.
example. Like, cocaine's illegal.
Should you make them take Adderall? Like they're like, hey,
Yeah.
dude, everybody needs to be on this. We need to be
No.
working.
For me, it's terrible. I've never had it, but it would be a terrible idea.
I've taken it once. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Too much. It was
You know,
too
you have a
intense.
thing you were working on the other night that my buddy Paul was joking around about too, about how he was pro steroids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's I love angles like that, like where you're pro the thing that most people are against, and then
Yeah.
you make those points.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I used to do a thing about Michael Vick where I ended up being pro dogfighting. You know?
One,
'cause I
one of our
knew-
attorneys was the attorney that represented Vic during his whole thing. So
Yeah?
it's it's his little claim to fame. So he's an awesome attorney. He actually does a lot of stuff and gets people that are wrongfully convicted out of prison and stuff. But he also was Michael Vick's attorney. So
Huh.
yeah, but I don't know, man. I mean, what's the right answer? Like again, cocaine's illegal, Adderall's legal, right?
Well,
Smoke-
it's another joke I have too is that you know you can put any molecule in your body you want in the U.S. as long as it's not enjoyable, or you could buy it from Big Pharma.
yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, what is heroin? You know, I mean, tell me you don't get the prescription version of that, right? And pain meds. They call it hillbilly heroin in some of our areas.
It's
They're
an
taking the
opiate,
pain
yeah.
meds,
Yeah,
the
that's
opiates,
what's
they're crushing
happened.
them and snorting them.
Yeah, that's what's happened.
I think
that's
if
what
you
happened to Mitch.
decriminalized the drugs and you legalize and regulate some of them, so that people that want to use them can use them safely in a safe, clean facility, and the people that want help can get access to rehabilitation. You invest in the rehabilitation programs instead of in prisons.
My
And-
sister's all for that. I can tell you that right now.
And I think you're going to have
That's more money.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have. I think you'll have less drug users because you take the stigma away from it. Then it becomes, then it's probably going to be looked at more as, well, if you just do that all the time, you're going to be a loser, and no one wants to be a loser, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll have some people that can do it and do it productively, And then you have some people that want to stop doing it. They need help, and you help them. But none of those people should be criminals.
I agree.
You know.
Well, let's say I go home and drink bleach, and that was what got me high, right? Now I'm an idiot.
It also can cure you of COVID.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And everything else.
Now listen, it may cure you of COVID, but you're going to die from ingesting the bleach.
But they can't count it as a COVID death.
Yeah, they can't count it as a COVID death. They got those fuckers. But but like if that's what I want to do, again, it doesn't affect anybody else, right? But like he just said, if it was something that people got enjoyment out of, well, now we have to make it illegal. We have to deter the behavior, right? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, the wrong people are making money from it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're not making any. That's exactly right.
It used to be illegal to give blowjobs.
Yeah.
Make it illegal.
And that didn't stop Clinton. Fellatio.
It was legal then.
Oh, yeah.
This was a long time ago.
They have made it illegal in many states. It's part of the. They just passed it in Michigan about maybe 2 years ago. They passed another one of those anti-sodomy laws, which counts as oral sex. I used to do a joke about how what do they have? The police bursting in at 3 a.m. like, hey, get that dick out of your mouth. Don't swallow that. That's evidence. Take her away.
So I can't say the firm. I gotta be careful what I say. All right. So do you remember when the Secret Service had the prostitutes overseas?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. What am I allowed to say? All right.
Do you know some lawyers that defended them?
So, well, let's just say hypothetically there was a lawyer and there was one of those guys. And one of those guys was not married, didn't have a girlfriend, and they were going to terminate him. And he didn't lie. When asked, he said, yes, I paid for the prostitute and brought her back to my room, and we did what we did. Didn't lie about it when asked, when questioned. They said they were going to terminate him. He hired this attorney, who happens to be one of our attorneys. And the attorney said, you can't terminate him. And they go, well, why not? He goes, well, tell me what law he broke. What rule, right? And there's not one. There was not, at the time, a law that said that because he didn't commit.
Because prostitution was legal where they did it?
Exactly. So, and he didn't lie about it. He wasn't married. So this is not like in the military, if you cheat on your spouse. There's things all in the military and all in these government agencies about stepping out on your marriage or stepping out on your children. There's all these things. He wasn't in a relationship. He didn't lie about it. So even if he just lied about the activity, they could have fired him based on that, right? He was honest about it. He was truthful about it, etc. So anyway, long story short, the end result was he kept his job, right, and was paid for all the time that they withheld. But in the new HR manual, it clearly says now you cannot participate in any form of paid for sexual activity, etc., even if it's legal in the country that you're in. And there's paragraphs now that have been added to that for this.
Right.
But
which I think makes no sense either.
I agree.
It's a victimless crime. It's not even a crime. It's a victimless activity. If prostitution is another one of those things. It should be legal.
Regulate it.
It should be regulated.
Yeah.
That would prevent
that's
sex
one of those
trafficking.
that's one of those subjects too where I sort of I go both ways on because I don't know.
Yeah, but I think if you were talking to someone that does that for a living, they would disagree with you, and I think that they would say, "Well, I should have the right to do what I want to with my body."
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. They would. Most of them would.
Well, I'm saying, don't men have no rights when it comes to a woman and the child inside of her? And I disagree with that because on some level it's still my child, but I understand. The women say it's my body, it's my choice.
Right.
So if it's women's body and it's women's choice, and they choose to exchange, they don't want to go work 40 hours a week, they would rather do this activity, and that's what they would like to do, and they're choosing willfully to do that. And we've got regulation, and we've got all these ways for them to do it in a safe manner. If I have a daughter or a wife or a mother, I don't think they should be doing that. Again, I don't think people should be smoking, but I'm not going to stop them from smoking. I don't think people should be doing cocaine or heroin, but I'm not their daddy. I'm not the one telling them what to do.
What if it's sort of along the lines of, because they have such limited options, it's like an army recruiter being in a really poor neighborhood and making it seem like this is a good business for you to go into. You know what I mean? Like this is really one of your only options.
Yeah.
So it's
Well,
not really a choice.
Well, my
like you
dad
think a
went in.
woman is like
What if you looked at it like this?
like a woman wants to be
Or
some most of the people getting, not most of the people getting prostitute, but there's a huge chunk of people that they just
Probably from a
want
lot
to
of
they
dysfunctional
just want to
families
sort of
stuff, but-
abuse women, and
That's very possible, yeah.
And so that they're in a position they've ended up putting themselves in a position where they've walked themselves up to there, yes, but their choices were so limited in what they were able
Yeah.
to do, and they're getting more and more limited. So, like, and to get
Still
out
their
of
choice, though.
desperation.
So how about you got to
Yeah.
you have to get a license to be a prostitute, which means you got to go through so much education.
Or you make it the other way. It's the crime to buy it. It's not the crime to sell it. Like you go after the people using the women.
I think
You're
that's-
still hurting the women though, because
Yeah.
if they want to do it, they should be able to do it, and they're going to do it regardless.
Okay.
Well,
I'm not. I'm like
You
I
know,
said.
I
I'm
mean,
not
either
firm
way.
on either way. It's one of those things where I'm the same with guns, where
Yeah.
I see both sides of the debate, and people are like, you can't.
And maybe
Well,
maybe
you
she's
can.
like
So-
you know what? I had a shitty dysfunctional childhood,
yeah.
but now I can make $200,000 a year.
The opposite does happen. Like a very famous Hollywood person, their daughter decided to become a sex worker.
Yeah.
And that clearly was not because
Yeah.
of their predicament, but they just decided to do that. They wanted to. Some
That's
people
true, yeah.
get
Well,
involved with that.
Who was that?
I don't really want to say because I'm a filmmaker and
No. It's somebody
It's public
like it's
information.
someone
Huge.
like Samuel Jackson or somebody
No,
like that.
it's bigger, man. Well,
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson's pretty huge.
It's somebody like that.
It's
Yeah.
one of my favorite directors.
Yeah, I know who it
Okay.
is
It's
too, yeah,
public
but
information, though, right?
I think I know.
Oh, totally, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
I think Samuel Jackson does. It's him or somebody like somebody like it from
someone
that era.
huge.
Well-
He was huge way before we ever heard
So
of Samuel Jackson.
let me-
Danny Glover or somebody like that.
So
Peter Jackson. Oh.
So
Well, no.
I'll give
Okay.
you another example, and I agree with what you're saying. That probably happens. My father obviously was recruited at 17 into the military, poor, by the way, very same
But
circumstances.
it ended up giving a whole group of his family a line of business.
Yeah, I mean, well, and it did. It provided some structure and it provided some money and it did provide a way out. It was an opportunity, maybe not the only one, right?
Right.
One of the only ones presented to him. But
Did what was presented to him end up being what he was in for, or did it?
I don't
was it
believe.
sort
I
of
don't
a bait and
believe. I don't
switch?
believe so. But
Okay.
I think he, over time, he respected the structure and the things, and those things have served him well in his life,
Right.
right? But let me give you the other example. I think what you're saying is true. But what is also true is, this is going to sound bad, but I encourage you to get on and type in Miss America porn or Miss USA this or that. You would be surprised, and let me tell you, the people that are typically competing in these Miss America pageants and they're putting their kids, they're wealthy families. You'd be surprised how many women have gotten Miss America, Miss California, Miss North Carolina, and immediately signed $1 million plus porn contracts immediately afterwards. I encourage you to go look.
Really?
So you can't just say, though, that only women...
And they won't even let him wear swimsuits anymore.
Bro, it's funny. What do we care about? World peace, world peace, world peace. I'm Miss America. I'll give you $1.4 million to perform. Boom, I'm done. I'm in. Right? All the morals went right out the window, right? Like all the stuff they said is right out the window because they wanted the $1.4 million.
It's a show.
I'm not saying they're all doing it. I'm just saying you'd be surprised how many have. And those are women that are typically of means.
Okay, that's fair.
But I don't think you
But
should.
that you shouldn't judge everybody because of that.
And you also
No.
shouldn't say because you're from a lower economic tier, then you're not allowed to make this choice. Like, are you saying that people that are under a certain economic status should be parented by the government? You're an adult, but you're not allowed to make these decisions because
Yeah.
we don't think you're capable.
If you made six
I
figures,
have a-
you can decide what to do with your body. But since you don't, since your family's poor, you can't decide what to do with your body.
Makes no sense. If
Okay.
you're a free society,
Yeah.
like you should be able to.
I agree with you.
I'm convinced. I'm not. I'm not.
I think where your reservation is, and mine too, and everybody should be, is that women are going to be taken advantage of, right?
Yes.
And that children are going to be taken advantage of. And I think that I agree with those things completely. But the reality is prostitution has been around longer
Forever.
The oldest
than anything.
profession.
It's the oldest profession. It's not going anywhere, right? It
Right.
needs to be taxed and regulated, and it gets rid of all this.
Right.
It's going on today. It's illegal. It's
And
going
it
on today.
Probably would help fix a lot of the problems with the sex trade and all that stuff that's happening.
People think
to people
by
that are
legalizing
victims.
it, they're thinking
you
that
know.
by legalizing it, they're going to condone it. Trust me, the people that are using prostitutes are using them already.
And I don't want my daughter to do it. I mean,
I
it's-
don't- I
you know,
don't-
clearly
yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
Although it's good business.
Yeah.
Come on.
There are other good businesses.
Get behind her.
yeah. But that's the
There's
thing.
money
right?
in that online.
I think you should educate too. Like the tobacco companies, obviously because they were forced to spend all this money saying that smoking is bad for you, right? I think that the porn industry or the sex industry, whatever, should have to spend a certain amount of money. All this tax and regulation
And education.
should be education. There should be some process, and there should be commercials. Like, I don't think you should smoke. I don't think you should do heroin, right? I have the financial means, and most people do, to do heroin. I'm sure. If pick the world's worst drugs, I guarantee you, in a few hours I could have them, and I could choose to do them. I'm choosing not to. Why?
I feel like we could find a little bit of heroin in
Yeah.
that rotted out building right across the parking lot.
100%.
It's like I'm sure
possible.
somebody is passed out there with a needle in their arm
100%.
right now.
Literally, you could find drugs.
In prison.
I could get exactly.
That's true,
I could
yeah.
get drugs in high school better than I could get cigarettes in high school.
Speaking of cigarettes and monetary systems, which we did earlier,
Yeah.
like we're talking about like how much a monetary system changing like overnight
Yeah.
would it change the whole economic structure? I don't even know if that's real. If we switched from dollar to something else, if it would really change everything. But that happened, right? In prisons.
Yeah.
Like one day you're the richest guy in prison with all the cigarettes, and the next day there's no more smoking indoors. And
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? The cigarette market collapsed.
Well, societies have
prison.
collapsed.
They fucked me.
You know,
Huh?
You got fucked.
Yes, he is fucked literally now.
Yeah.
Currency's
Now
collapsed.
Imagine if you're the guy that was giving all the blowjobs for the cigarettes.
Right.
Like you're just stacking cigarettes. Like, oh,
I got cigarette now. You're like,
Yeah.
oh shit! Now I got to go suck the nicotine patch guy.
oh, those dicks.
Currencies have collapsed in societies before.
Yes.
But it's just like total economic collapse.
Yeah.
I don't think the thing with Bitcoin and stuff is what would you base the value on? Like currently it's based on the value of the U.S. dollar. That's what we gauge it on.
I would love a solution. I'm not opposed to a solution. I don't know what it is, but I would love one. I mean, our money right now is literally, it's just paper. It's not tied to anything.
It's
The
tied
bank's trying-
It's tied to GDP.
Every dollar printed is a debt owed. So it really every dollar.
Yeah.
If I have $100 bill, it's not value. It's debt.
Yeah.
That's owed by us to the Federal Reserve Bank.
Yeah, but check this out. If you own a bank, I have a license to print debt or print money.
Right.
Because
That's crazy to me.
You put $1 million in my bank, I can lend out $10 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can make up money out of fucking thin air
Yeah.
and then lend it to somebody at interest. So the money doesn't even exist.
Exactly.
More money is owed than exists.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like there's got to be a way to base
Yeah.
I love
monetary value on human beings.
Dave Ramsey doesn't believe in debt, right? His system would collapse the world economy.
100%. Yeah.
There's only like, and I don't remember the number. We should look this up afterwards. There's like $3 trillion or $5 trillion, right? But if you look at the debt in America, it's over $100 trillion.
Yeah. If we could pay back every dollar we owe and not meet every dollar that exists could be paid back and it wouldn't equal
like,
what we owe.
It's like 3 or 5%. I mean, like it's
I thought the deficit was about 20 trillion.
no. I'm talking about debt. I'm talking about
all the-
global.
yeah,
the
yeah.
United States
Total
debt,
debt
like
of all the
like debt.
civilians and
yes,
all the
the amount
people,
lent,
yeah.
the debt that's out there.
Citizens,
yeah.
I'm not talking about the country's debt.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm talking about,
The
but the
individual.
country's debt is a good example. Like we literally, if you took every dollar the country had liquid, couldn't pay off the debt.
No, yeah. It's-
Every real dollar, right?
You couldn't provide everybody's needs.
No. So this is the thing. It's like we're in a leveraged
Constantly
society.
increasing debt.
I don't know what the solution is, but it's definitely there's a lot of problems.
Well, what we're doing is not the solution.
Yeah.
That's clear.
So
Yeah,
my goal
maybe
is
it is.
I just
Maybe-
want to do as well.
Maybe we're doing it perfectly, and it's going to cost a lot of tragedy to happen
Yeah,
before
maybe.
the next, like you were talking about, the next sort of, it's like a cleansing, like a breathing in, like life sort of breathing in and then breathing out and all this, and then
Yeah.
this has to go away sort of for the next.
thing to stay.
I believe in a holographic universe and that everything is part of the whole. So
Maybe
I mean,
maybe when we all get linked up with Neuralink and we become telepathic, we'll realize we're all the same thing.
Yeah.
We're all one being. And these things won't matter anymore. We're like, oh, we have all the resources.
yes.
We'll worry about different things.
Let's say Republican, Democrat, right? And we sit here, and let's say you and I are on opposite ends of certain things, but we talk about prostitution. We disagree, but actually we agree on a lot of things. I'm just saying in theory, right?
Right.
You think it should, let's say you thought it should be illegal, I thought it should be legal. What it really is, let's talk about the things we care about, which we did. A lot of those things we actually both care about. Mm-hmm. We have the same concerns. We just disagree on how we accomplish the goal.
Right.
We're so close, it's not funny. And I think that it's made to look like we're so far apart, but really, there's so many.
Divided we fall, dude.
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
There's so
That's
many
the goal
things.
is to keep like we're like the prison system. It's to
Yeah.
keep us in gangs fighting
Yeah,
each other.
I agree.
So that we don't take on the ultimate corporate state.
I
They
agree.
want us all as slaves.
I agree with that. And that's the thing. It's like, I feel like we're so close on certain. There are, okay, granted, there are people that view some things vastly different, opposite ends.
Right.
But I think if you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, a lot of things they still agree on.
Yeah.
Like, you want to be a good neighbor, right? You live in a community. You
Yeah.
want to be a good neighbor, don't you?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we should phrase things that way. Like, hey, you want to be a good citizen. You want to be a good neighbor. You want to be a good human. These are practices that we can all agree on make a good person. We may disagree on how we get there, right?
Right.
But we agree on what the goal is. And sometimes those goals are slightly different, and they look vastly different, but then we start to really break them down. We may agree on certain parts of that goal, but just not the end result. So it's like, why can't we find all the common ground and just figure out, pick something controversial that you believe in, that let's say other people on the other side might disagree with. Do you have something?
Well, I mean, I'm anti-war, so I'm sort of, I wouldn't say I'm anti-gun, but I'm pro-gun laws. I think the First Amendment or the Second Amendment calls for them, which isn't necessarily a totally agreeable side.
So
I agree the climate science is real and not made up.
Okay, so
Those kind of
let's
things.
take that one. That's a good one. That's a good one,
Very
right?
polarizing.
Polarizing.
issue. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that I don't know. I'm not intelligent enough to have done the research and know it well enough, but it makes sense to me. It's reasonable to me that it could be true,
Right.
right? And if it is, what are some things that we can do to start to change it, right? And I'm open to that conversation,
Right.
right? I can't just blindly go with my party and go, this guy's a fucking lunatic. I'm just saying in general.
Well, here's an
hypothetically.
interesting thing with that. You are intelligent enough, by the way, to
Yeah, yeah.
research
Well,
this.
I'm saying
you just haven't researched it.
Yeah, I haven't researched it. But
I watched. What is her name? She's black and she's conservative.
Candace Owens?
Candace Owens. I watched her on the Joe Rogan podcast one time, and she said she didn't believe in global warming and that humans had anything to do with it, but she hadn't done any research on it. But she had no reason that she believed it other than she just didn't want to believe it.
yeah.
Which is insane.
And then
And
how
I
can
feel
you-
like that's part of a problem.
That is part of the problem.
Is people get stuck in these ideologies and they can't break that. So I'm an independent. So I look at each issue on my own and try to find the facts and see what the science, the total scientific consensus is on that. If 90% of scientists believe a certain thing and the studies are showing that 90% this is what's happening, then I'm going to believe that because that's all I can base it on is facts.
Yeah.
Right.
Otherwise, you just believe whatever the fuck you want to believe. It doesn't matter. you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. And that's what. But that's
They were like, that's a myth. That's a myth
Yeah.
by the Chinese. I think that's a myth. Yeah, well, you also think Jonah spent 3 days in a whale's belly is a fact. So fucking you go sit over there. The
See,
people who
but
read are going to talk about this
yeah.
and be
But
worried.
see, I can listen to what you're saying, right, and hear these points are articulated, and I can go. I'm a reasonable person. I can go. Actually, I could see that. So how do we solve it? Right.
Yeah,
So now I agree with you. How do we solve it?
Right.
And this might be where we disagree slightly.
Right.
Because is the solution worse than the problem? This is where I have a
Right.
problem, right? Because everything has a consequence. Everybody's like, oh, COVID's very dangerous. There's people dying. I encourage you to look at the suicide rate since this started.
Right.
This will be a record year for suicides in the recorded history of America if it continues going like it's going. Right? That's a consequence to what's
Because
going
It's a
people
good
have,
point.
Because people have to spend time with their families.
No, because
Early, maybe
maybe.
early on they
No, it's this aura, it's depression, it's you're trapped, there's no
But you killing
outlets.
killing yourself. doesn't kill me, my mom.
I think it's looking at society's
those
health,
7 people,
the health of society.
you know what I mean?
I agree. It's overall. No. What I'm saying is it's a consequence. So every action has a reaction.
Right.
It's a consequence of the decision we've made. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not even saying that we shouldn't wear masks. We shouldn't shut down. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when we make a decision, there's going to be something that happens. So you and I could agree that there's global warming and something needs to change. What I'm saying is the solution could be bad. And you're going to say, hey, me committing suicide doesn't affect you. But if, let's say 3,000 people died from COVID and 5,000 died from committing suicide, we had more deaths from suicide than we did COVID. And you got to look at all the stuff that happened.
Contributed.
Right.
So is the solution worse than the problem? I don't know. I'm just saying we got to make sure it's not, right?
Right.
I'm not just talking financial here. I'm talking about real life, right? Let's look and see. I'm not sure. But like for you, like, okay, what's the solution? So if the solution is to get rid of the airline company overnight, and the solution is to get rid of farming and to get rid of all these things, like I can't agree with that overnight, a sweeping change like
I think
that.
the solution is, and I think we'd both agree on it, would be that we all need to be educated on it.
I agree.
And the people that are pretending it's not real are creating a danger for the rest of us.
And maybe find out why they're saying that.
If they're controlling the narrative and where we're headed, if they're in charge of that,
right,
and they're pretending that it's not real and we're going off a cliff, that's
I'm
fucking
fine.
important to know.
I'm fine with all that.
So we should, I mean, and science isn't always right. Science is obviously paid for by whoever paid for the scientists.
But
You know
science is
what I'm
all we
saying?
have, too.
You know?
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
So we should go with, history shows us, I think, that we should probably pay attention a little bit to what they're saying. These
I
people
agree
are
with
like, you're just like who's the sky is, Chicken Little with the
Yeah.
fucking sky is
The
falling.
sky is falling, yeah.
No, well, Chicken Little didn't have 50 years of peer-reviewed research to say, look,
Yeah.
the sky is falling.
Or the
It's
internet.
like, yeah, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, I
So
can
we
agree
should
with
we
you.
could just be like, okay, we really do need to look into that and to take the sciences
I agree with
seriously.
you.
People are like, well, like you were like, science is coming up with ways. Yeah, they have come up with ways, and we have ignored it for fucking 30 years. You know, I remember when the first thing Reagan did was take all the
solar panels,
off the White House that Carter put up. Like, you know, that's just like this. People have been saying we should do something for a long time, and then now we're getting to the point
and
where
that's funny,
too
though.
fucking late. Now it's
Now,
too, you know,
It shows,
potentially.
it shows an ideological problem, though, because you think about that. That's a good example.
Yeah, it is.
Because Reagan was a conservative, right? Well, wouldn't the conservative thing be to conserve?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's never
conservation of
been the case.
energy. If you find
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
more efficient ways to do things, that's conservative, right? That it's
Right.
it's a political problem
At the root of it,
like
yeah.
global warming. For me, global warming is easy to explain. All you have to do is explain to people that okay, carbon particles stay in the atmosphere for 300 years. So the more carbon particles we put in the atmosphere, the more it builds up and stays
Especially
there for
if we're
300
chopping down the trees that absorb it.
So
and we're, you know what I mean? We're
if-
doing these things
if
to
we
make
had
it worse.
If Yosemite erupted, it's a supervolcano, it would fill the atmosphere with carbon.
Yeah, it'd be way worse than even 100 years of using fossil
Instantly, it would be
fuels.
death for everything.
Right.
I mean, for most life on Earth, it would kill it because it would just saturate the atmosphere with carbon. It would block out the sun. We'd have like a nuclear winter, and all our food would die. Most mammals would die. We'd all freeze to death and starve to death. It would be terrible. Well, the same thing's happening with global warming, just slower than that, but it's still happening very fast. And we just have to find more efficient ways to do what we need to do. And we have those resources, we have those abilities, and we have the science. We just need to do it. The problem is there are people that benefit from the resources we're using now.
That's true.
Yeah.
And when you have oil companies that make billions of dollars a month,
They don't want to retool.
No.
yeah, they don't want to change that.
They have no need to.
Yeah.
Right?
And I disagree with that, right? Like if I'm the billionaire that owns that company, I'm going to say, hey, look, this is the writing on the wall. Let's shift directions.
Yeah.
Let's lead the fight against. But that's the problem is what we're talking about is individuals that are making decisions that are with their own self-interest, but they're taking this viewpoint that keeps them. It'd be like me saying, what I'm hearing is, okay, ATMs are my, let's say they're my business, my bread and butter. Now I'm going to viciously go after anybody else that does anything that might prevent my ATM business from operating. That's
Right.
the mentality that we have, and I disagree with that completely. I agree with you.
But information fixes that, though. We just don't know how to sift through the information.
I agree.
yet.
And so
We're
like
adjusting.
when I have my problem, like, and AOC was the Green New Deal, right? She's just the name that comes up when I think about global
Right.
warming. My problem is she's so far with what her solution she's proposing that somebody like me can't get behind it.
Yeah, yes. Because
There's a lot of people like me that are reasonable.
we could just
Right.
shut down all industry and society and
Yeah.
and not have toilet paper anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I mean,
I
there
think-
comes a point where
Or
maybe the very system that we're in is the path to destruct that we need to refocus and maybe rethink.
Yeah.
Because we just like, okay, this is the way, greed is the way, blah, blah, blah,
But it
capitalism
is
is the way.
constantly
And it may
evolving.
be like capitalism has worked or whatever. Or maybe we're recognizing now, oh fuck.
Yeah.
This in the big picture isn't working. It's the exact wrong thing. And we
Right.
are having such a hard time. Like people are like, it's America, but America isn't, we're like you said, we're a democratic republic. We're not a capitalism.
Yeah.
That's our economic model.
I agree.
So we can, through our votes and through our thing,
I agree with that.
develop another economic model that embraces sort of us living with the planet instead of against
Yeah.
it. Because if we keep going down this path, even the most conservative people say by 2030, it's too late. The temperature's gone above raising 2 degrees Celsius. The ice caps melt. That fucking kills the oceans, releases all that methane. It's even worse than the carbon on the atmosphere, and we're fucked. You know,
Right.
all of plant life, it's an extinction level event. So,
Yeah.
so there is. I'm with you. I don't want to change, but for 40 years we've said we're not doing it. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. So we may be at
Well, it's
the
not
point
that
where
I
we're
don't-
fucked unless we do it.
It's not that I don't want to change. It's the way you change it, right? You should never, like, if I come into a business deal, this is the fundamental issue. If I come into a business deal and it's my way or the highway, the deal will never happen.
Right.
Right.
You've got to be willing to make concessions. We've got to be willing to move towards the goalpost,
Has to be a
right?
compromise.
There's got to be some level of compromise. And what's the problem is there's no when you have something that's so extreme, people that are leaning where they
I agree. I do agree.
Eh.
I think the same thing on guns. I think
Yeah.
that if you're so extreme that you're like, we can't have any gun law, eventually there's not people like you that have that gun and haven't used it. There's
Right.
fucking 40 that are like, bam, bam, you said what to me about my mama? Fucking,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want that traffic spot. Eventually, those people that are that extreme are going to fuck it up for you
Yeah.
and for me
Oh,
and
yeah.
for the rest of us to be able to do it legally. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So if
I mean, I would love to live somewhere where I don't have to worry about a gun, right? I don't know. I grew up poor, and I get it, and this is not meant to be the wrong way, but I grew up poor as a white person in predominantly black neighborhoods,
right.
and I grew up getting the shit kicked out of me.
Like Eminem,
Period. Not quite as bad as him, probably,
right?
but I grew up on off either in military bases, which are predominantly my dad, again, poor white, 17 in the military. My mother was pregnant with me. I grew up on military bases or just off bases, and a predominantly African American. My dad wasn't an officer. He wasn't high up in the military, right?
Right.
So I got the shit kicked out of me, right? I've been jumped by multiple people at one time. Like the reality is in life, bad things happen to good people. Bad things happen to people, period, for no reason, for no apparent reason.
Right.
They didn't do anything. They just happened to be there, unfortunately. And these other people decided, for whatever reason, that they were going to rob or they're going to beat up or they're going to do this and felt helpless. The gun is an equalizer,
Right.
right? I want to go home and see my kids.
It's an
I'm-
equalizer, but isn't it also sort of a
It's also
escalator? Like
Well, not-
if you pull your gun, now I pull my
if
gun.
I pull my gun, I'm going to shoot you.
Okay.
Period.
Yeah, you should only pull it if you're going to use it. But
I'm not going to pull it unless
There's not even like a pull it, like, look what I,
Before
you
you
want,
go.
you want to rethink this? Look what I got?
No, I'm gonna. If I pull my gun, I'm at a point where I've got to shoot you. Like literally.
if you're trained, if you take a training course for firearms, that's what they teach you. Like
Yeah.
you do not pull out a firearm unless you are going to use it.
Yeah, I'm not waving or
It's not a
displaying it.
threat,
I'm not
it's
trying to threaten you with it. Like if my life is
There's
in
no
danger,
like one last chance, dude.
No,
Get the fuck off
no,
me.
It's supposed to be.
No,
just
you,
to
you
use
wait that one last second and you're dead.
Okay.
Because how I can show you videos, right, of people that don't leave one in the chamber. So they pull their gun thinking they're going to have enough time in the moment to chamber their weapon. This is like having a car in your garage with no gas in it. and you got to go get in the car and there's an emergency, but now you got to put gas in it, and the gas is in a container. You got to open the container, you got to fill it up before you start your car, and
Well, like that's like yours. Yours is stocked away somewhere in your house. Didn't you say yours is in like a thing in your house?
It's in a fingerprint
Exactly.
safe. So
That's what I mean.
You don't have split seconds. Like watch some of these people that have been shot.
That's what I mean. So his is almost useless to him.
No, it's loaded and cocked. I just swipe my finger and pull it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I chop your finger off, I can get your gun?
You could.
can.
Yeah, you could.
You can just kill me and use
Yeah.
my finger.
Yeah. But I can show you people that
Why don't you hide it in your fake leg?
that
Like
have
you got it like
yeah, right.
It's
Wouldn't-
not that valuable.
Have you seen? We got this guy in
If you
Colorado.
want it that bad, I'll give it to you. You can just have it.
And here's the other thing: like, what level of threat is it? Like, let's say you're wanting to steal my car. I'm probably give you the keys. Right? What is the level of threat? Are my children in the car and you're trying to take it? Now I got a problem, right?
Yeah.
If you want my car and I'm by myself and it's 2 o'clock in the morning at the gas station,
That's crazy level-headed then. That you have you'd have a gun on you, but
well,
I think that's pretty rare and good character in my opinion. Like if every gun owner was like
They're
that,
not.
I
I
would
get
have a
that.
totally different opinion. But like that you would be like, all right, fuck here. My
yeah,
life's
what's
not
the
threatened.
level,
I'm not pulling.
What's
this.
the level of threat? That's where it comes down to me for me is what is the level of threat against me directly?
Yeah.
Right, or my children or my wife, right? Like bad shit. Listen, I can
And
assure
you can recoup monetary losses.
exactly, and I get
Yeah.
it. And now some people may not think the way I think. I'm just saying, for me, solely, I'm calm, and the presence of the gun helps keep me calm.
Right.
Right, literally, it's just like a peace is over me. Like, hey, if something bad comes in and happens, it depends on what the level of the threat is at me or at my people that I care about, right?
Right.
But again, this is also, I would love to live in a world where I didn't have to have it.
Right. That's sort of in my comedy, as far as like the issue like a gun or an abortion or a thing. I've found where the way I've been able to tackle that subject is to do that thing sort of at the beginning of it, where to address the fact that I agree with both sides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's parts of me that think this, there's parts of me that think that, and then that allows me to talk to you. Like if I go up on stage and I do 10 minutes of fuck gun owners, I've lost you.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I'll deal with I'll deal with a lot of it actually,
Right.
because
But
I
also,
think I'm a pretty reasonable
Right.
person.
But
Yeah.
if I'm on stage and I'm like I'm addressing my own conflict with it,
Yeah.
and then I'm pointing out some of the negatives about
Yeah.
guns,
I think
you're
that's
gonna-
smart.
then you're going to be a little bit. It's going to stick with you a little bit more to be
100%.
like, oh, now maybe my perspective is a little bit different than it was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, gun owners are stupid and they
Yeah.
should be outlawed, well, then you think I'm an idiot, and you're not going to. There's no point in you listening to what I got to say now.
Yeah,
but
and-
looking at the gun issue, the capitalism issue, especially the gun issue. When we look at the gun issue, I think we're looking at the wrong issue. We need to be looking at the issue with crimes and how to make those go away. Because if the crimes go away, the guns aren't necessary anymore. So you fix the if I see crimes, especially in a certain area, then to me that's the result of a problem.
Right.
You need to find the actual problem, pinpoint the problem, and fix the problem.
Yeah.
You fix the problem, then you don't have the crimes.
Yeah.
If you fix humanity, make people not want to kill each other, they don't need guns anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
By the time
it's
the
culture.
By the time the crime is committed, and I'm not condoning bad stuff happens. I'm not condoning. I'm just saying by the time it's committed, the problem is years prior to
Yeah.
that, maybe
Yeah.
decades
Yeah.
prior to that.
Right.
And some of these communities, I agree with that. Like, and that's why, I mean, listen, if somebody comes in, I'm going to feel a certain way. If someone I love is shot and killed by somebody during a robbery, obviously I'm going to be devastated. Obviously I'm going to be highly upset, right?
Yes.
But at the same point, what do we do moving forward, right? Like, we have to punish the problem, right? We have to solve it. I think that person, again, I think if I believe in reform, then I believe in reform, period. So it can't be just because it's one of my people, I feel differently about it. So there's some level of reform. There should be some punishment. We can debate about what that is, but there also has to be some way for this person to pay some level of restitution and go on with their life. And even if it's in
or at
some-
least they're given the opportunity to change.
exactly.
Maybe.
At what point do they lose that? What point do they lose that sort of, okay, fuck you? There's no more of that. You raped a kid. You raped a
Well, see,
woman.
like,
You
and
killed somebody.
I think maybe that person's
you're
already.
fucking beyond. You're on. It's too late. You've made
These
enough
are-
bad decisions that it's over.
I agree.
I think it's too late for that person. I think you prevent that person from becoming that person.
Yeah,
You
but
fix-
once they're
you
already
fix
that
the problem.
person, you
It's
got to
too
keep
late.
them separated.
It's too late,
On
yeah.
some level, you got to keep them
Yeah.
separate. Because here's where I draw the line. Like me as an adult, if some dumb shit happens to me, I feel like, you know what, I'll be okay. Like if you came in and you beat my ass and you took my stuff, and like I'm gonna be upset with you, obviously, right? But at the end of the day, I don't think that the rest of your life should be ruined because of that.
No.
Now, if you come in and beat up my 9-year-old, I feel a little differently about that, and I think other people would, because you're taking it. If you came in and beat up a helpless elderly person or a helpless female, like I feel a little bit more strongly about the type of person that would do that.
Right.
So those ones I get a little funky about. But me personally, like if somebody robbed me and just beat me senseless, I think there should be a crime. There should be a punishment, and I think there should be some level of restitution. But I still think they have an ability to rehabilitate themselves.
I don't know if you can rehabilitate that person.
I'm not sure
though,
either.
because they may be just too ruined from their past. Whatever. Most people are not.
So you get like 10
sociopaths.
minutes in a room with him handcuffed, where you get to beat the shit out of him with a bat, something like
I don't
that.
think
That's
that
fair.
would fix it.
You know, I gotta.
I'd feel better.
But I'll tell you, and I'll say this: this is a long time ago when I was younger. There were periods where
yeah, you
people,
may feel better.
people did some things, and they were given an option. Let's say the girlfriend's like, "Look, you can't go back to prison." Da 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 da. He'll and okay, well, you've got an option. You can give the money back. We can call the police. You can give the money back, or you can step outside and handle it like a man, and we'll shake hands and call it a day. And at this time, there were people that said, this is a long time ago, I'll step outside and handle it like a man, and we'll call it a day. And that was the option they took, because they had already spent the money. They didn't want to go to prison, and the person that was wronged was able to, in their mind, make it right.
Right.
They were able to provide some level of punishment and deterrent, and then it's done.
So does
So I'm
does
kinda-
that person fight back in that situation, or just take the beating?
I don't know. And in that situation, the way it happened, they attempted to fight back. It didn't work very well, but
Right.
but I don't know the right answer to that. I'm not sure. I will tell you, like if I do something stupid,
You
as
could make some money on like the YouTube videos of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you.
Yeah,
like
but if I wrong you, like if I wronged him, and I wouldn't, but if I did something to his wife in his presence, and I got punched in the face, maybe not everybody's this way, but I'm gonna be like, that one's on me.
Right.
I deserve that. What the fuck was I thinking? Right? Like, would I rather that or a multi-year civil lawsuit suing me for sexual harassment and trying to get me fired from my job, my employer, ruin the rest of my life, my children, like go to where my kids go to school and put up signs about me that now it's affecting my children's life, and then you try and put me in prison, or I got punched in the face? Because both of those are realities of possibilities, and they're going on currently today. I'll take the punch in the face all day long, and probably learn a better lesson. Like, why the fuck did you do that? There's the negative reinforcement I needed.
Right.
Right.
Maybe it gives you a chance to be productive and not
Yeah.
do that the next time.
But now,
Maybe.
if it continues to happen, obviously, then we've got to do a different thing. But I'm okay. But again, it's a touchy thing. Like,
there are some people that just have broken brains too.
yeah.
So did that
You know.
person? Did that end up being now?
That person, the person I'm talking to the story about now, actually, I know of to this day. He tells this story, and this is one of the things that helped keep him get his shit right. Now,
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah.
did he end up continuing down the path of being that guy, or did
So
that?
far,
that-
he's in a different direction, a different person.
I think in the future,
That's
I
pretty
think
cool.
with genetic engineering, with CRISPR and stuff like that, I think they'll be able to maybe determine which people are predisposed to be a certain way, and correct that gene.
Huh.
You know, so they won't be.
So like Soma in Brave New World, he's just like,
Clockwork Orange.
yeah, we sort of not dumb it down, but sort of temper their personality so that
well,
it's
you could
more
just
standard.
recode their DNA.
Yeah.
So like if they're going to be
got issues
if
with
they're
that,
predisposed
yeah.
to be a sociopath,
Yeah.
you just recode that gene so they're not going to be a sociopath.
Right. Well, then you get into a whole
Yeah.
big ethical problem.
I don't know.
with
I think this is
rights
probably
over
going to be the
humans.
future, man.
Have you seen? There's this case going on, And see, this stuff I just don't know, right? I mean, I'd love to really find some people that are really experts in these industry and listen to them ethically debate it.
Right.
Right. But there was I believe it was a 16-year-old teenager that was in juvenile detention that they started giving estrogen, forcibly giving estrogen. Right. And obviously they're doing it to counteract him. 16, they're saying he's got higher testosterone level. That's why he's violent. So they're forcibly giving him estrogen while he's in their custody. Right.
That's problematic.
I think that's an issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Personally, I think it's an issue. But it's like you hear stuff like that and you're like, oh, I'll just inject him with estrogen. So it's like,
Oh, I thought this story was going to continue with how it worked out.
no. This is just, there's a lawsuit going on right now. And I think this is in California, actually. But there's a lawsuit going on right now. This was in the news in the last, obviously it's not big in the news, but this is in the news in the last 2 weeks. And the family is suing, obviously. But
Never mind. We'll just release him back to your custody then. This
Yeah,
guy will-
yeah.
That testosterone full. You can have him.
But
He's
again,
gonna
so
fuck
it's like
every one of you up.
when you hear the solution, like you're saying, like change the thing. I kind of think about that for a second. I'm like, well,
Well, I don't.
You're
think
right though. That's coming. Like altering our genomes and stuff like that. If we continue to sort of, we're going to end up merging with AI and stuff like that. So how long? Yeah. Okay.
oh, we're good. We're good.
All right.
We're wrapping. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're running out of film.
The argument to that would be.
I guess I should have been funny on this. I'm a comedian.
Oh, we had a good time. Yeah.
Sam Harris. He's a brilliant scientist.
The next one.
He's the one that talks about how, like, if you take when they do studies on like murderers and stuff, they say, well, a lot of them say, well, I couldn't help it. I want to kill people, and so there's something wrong with that person's brain that gives them that desire. But what the thought is
It's
in the
interesting
future,
that we say that's wrong, but evolution-wise, it's obviously
it may have an
there's-
evolutionary reason, but we've reached a place with science that we can manipulate evolution somewhat.
Right.
Or maybe that's part of the evolution,
Yes, it's true.
And so the idea is that you can take someone and in the future you'll be able to see if that person will be a murderer. And if they are, you can recode their DNA and change that gene so they no longer have that desire to kill people.
I wonder if they'll be able to do that for the gene for addiction. Like
Sure, yeah.
Like if they'll be able to
I'm sure.
stamp that so that people won't have that thing that happens when they use.
Or maybe allow them to have that experience without the drug.
Well, isn't there something out there that when you eat it, it changes the taste of sugar to make it taste better or something?
Yes. What is that?
There's something, but anyway, maybe they could do that. Maybe they could have something that where when you did it, it actually had a negative. It
They
caused
do
a
that with
negative-
alcohol.
Do they?
They have where people get violently ill if they drink.
You guys are describing. Have you all never seen Clockwork Orange?
I
Like
haven't
y'all are
seen it.
talking all around that
Oh, yeah.
story. Oh my God! It's about a guy.
We're like, we need to
It's
get
a-
back to eugenics.
it-
Like, what happened?
It's
in
just
this
about a
podcast?
guy who's in a group of gang, and they go out and they go home invade and rape and kill and all this stuff, and then he's brought into their legal system, and they got this brand new drug they want to try out on him, and they do it, and they do all this stuff to him, and they change him.
And it's
But-
called what now?
Clockwork Orange?
I know the movie,
It's
I just haven't
excellent
seen it.
movie. The book is great. It's a tiny little book, but it's
I'm gonna have to
awesome.
check it out.
Yeah, read the book and see the movie. They're both
So-
great. Kubrick. But anyway, same stuff. Exactly what you guys are talking about.
Huh.
And the ethical problems that leads to. It'd
Yeah.
be great, but
Yeah.
Well, I
So-
think eventually we'll be modified humans too, so
Yeah.
we might not even have these issues.
So I'm down, by the way, with like the climate change argument. I'm all for it, right? And I'm down to make changes and concessions, etc. But you're not going to get everybody to do it with it being so extreme. And I feel like
What if we literally had one hope? Like we've waited so long, and
you're still not going to get everybody to do it. It's a self-defeating thing. The problem is, so like what you're saying is, what if this is the only solution? And here's the answer. Him and I have had business deals where the only solution we were unwilling to do, so the deal didn't happen. Too many people are unwilling to do it, even if you're true, even because they're never going to believe you. Never. Some people are never going to believe you. So even if what you're saying is 100% true and we take it face value, they don't care. They're not going to do it. So how do you get them to move in the right direction? You got to do it bit by bit.
Right.
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Capitalism fixes that too, and that's why capitalism has made these positive changes in society as a whole, because it creates incentives. People are motivated by incentives, and incentives also create innovation.
But if the incentive is based on greed,
But it's not-
to me, it's
well,
there can be, if we develop a way
people
where
are-
we're incentivized in a different way.
But
Yeah.
people
Then-
are.
We don't have to base on greed. Like
you can
incentivize me to go with an electric car or whatever. Like I like that. I like the incentive.
That's
There is
the
incentive.
example. Tesla is a good example because Elon Musk created Tesla, and all the other car manufacturers pretty much ignored him at first.
And now it's
And now they're all trying to get into the game because they realize
Yeah.
he's onto something. Like he is doing something that helps the environment, that will help
Yeah.
benefit the future. And there will be the people that accomplish these more efficient options win. Like if you come up with a more efficient type of energy, you win. And that's what science works for. And that's, we're all trying to innovate.
yeah.
And eventually oil will be a less
Have you
used thing. It'll be something of the past.
ever heard of someone that smokes and been smoking 30 years and they're like, that's going to kill you, and they're like, I know, I understand, I'm tired of hearing it till I'm blue in the face. Have you ever heard a smoker say,
Yeah.
I understand it's bad for me, I'm still going to smoke anyway?
Yeah.
I understand that the world's probably going to end, I'm still going to do it anyway. Right? This is the mentality of humans, of some humans. Like they've already.
I agree, dude.
Yeah.
I don't want to live like the Amish.
Yeah.
The
Well, no.
Amish have had it right all this time. Motherfuck. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I don't want to live that way.
But there
I'm
are a
down
lot of
to
people
make-
that want to find the ways to fix the problem.
No, and I'm down, and I know a lot of people are. The problem is when it's so extreme. And the guy we had on last week, he talked about, and we don't have enough time to get into this, but I'm down. But let's eat the elephant a bite at a time. Let's start making bites. Let's get down the path. Let's get the snowball going. Let's get people more open to this. So it's not. But the problem is the two-party system, and now it's become a football.
Yeah.
And both parties should be trying to solve it. Instead, one party is ignoring it completely, and the other party has these answers that people that somewhat believe it think they're too extreme.
Maybe there should be
Right.
parties.
Yeah, I don't know, but ananyway,
Yeah.
it's definitely a pleasure.
Yeah, we're out of time.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. This was way,
did too.
this is way different than I thought it was going to be. To be honest,
It was fun.
it was just
Next
fun
time,
hanging out.
Next time
Yes.
we'll do it again. Yeah,
It's fun to get
everybody-
out of the house and have conversations with real people.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, please remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Later, guys.
Bye.
Thanks.